Hello, everybody. Thanks for showing up. This is Playing in Traffic, where we talk cars, boats, anything you put gas in, that's what we talk about. My name is Lewis. Did I say that already? And this is the fellas. We're talking about car shows tonight. If you have any car shows in your town, please put them in the chat. We're live on Facebook and YouTube, so all of us can see it and we can talk about it, maybe share it with the community. How's it going, fellas?
And we have a new feature, Lewis. I'm Ray Guarino, Motormouth Radio. If you stay long enough, yeah, Brian, he knows where I'm going. You
Brian's
stay
up till
long
1 in
enough,
the morning.
proved this last week, you get the food show. We've now transitioned through cars and music and instruments into food. And we almost had Brian jump off a ledge last week, but
that's it. I'm telling you, boys, I gain any more weight, I'm coming to each of y'all with a baseball bat and taking care of you, because you guys got to stop talking all that stuff, man.
I'll tell you what I had to do. I had to take the file from this show. I had to figure out a way to download it and crack it, which I did. 3 hours worth of show I had to download and then convert it to save the 10-minute clip. Go to the last 10 minutes of last week's show and you'll see what I'm talking about. And then literally the last 8 seconds is going to be a bit on Motormouth Radio, because between John and Brian, even my wife was laughing.
I said the dancing bagels. I like that. Yeah. I'll be dreaming of dancing bagels.
I know. So anyway, I said last week later in the show that if people really want to see what this show's about, watch the beginning, because you'll see the guests and you'll see the serious stuff, and then just like go to the end, fast forward to the end, and you'll get all the silliness. And it really is two different entities.
It is.
Now, Lewis, you didn't hurt your fingernail yet. You haven't banged your thumb yet, have you?
Not yet. I was about to spit the fire right now.
Yeah, do it, because that's
listen, me and my wife are sitting in the shed in the shop, and I'm grabbing a hammer. I'm like, man, this is the wrong hammer. I said, I need some new hammer. And I'm telling you, 20 minutes later, UPS truck pulls up, and look what he brings. He brings me 3 hammers. Right?
Nice.
And it came from my man Brian. Thank you, Brian. I really appreciate you.
No problem.
And
nice body hams.
The only thing I want to know is, I've gotten a bunch of stuff from Brian, but how do you get yours so fast?
I'm closer.
No, you're not. I'm closer.
I'm only 5 hours. You're what? Oh yeah, you are closer, huh?
Come on, man. I'm like 3 hours away.
Maybe since it next day.
I mailed them one day last week.
Did you? Oh, the hammers.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm happy, bro. Thank you.
I'm gonna have to drive down there with a ham and cheese sandwich is what I got to do, and I'm just gonna have to and some dancing bagels and maybe pick the stuff up. I don't know.
Hey,
I make one comment. Ooh. Girl Scout cookies. Oh, God.
Yeah, but it was a good one, Brian. That was gold. It was radio gold.
I know. Make one comment. I said, that's it. I gotta go make a ham. It was funny because it was like 12:30.
It was 12:36 actually. Yeah.
When I sent you the picture, and the next morning my daughter goes, "What were you cooking down there? I could smell something." And blah blah blah. I was like, I wasn't doing anything. And
nothing. Deny.
Dog all came up. Had to fight them off. All hungry, and then you gotta fight the dogs and people bugging me. God, I can't do anything in private.
So Kevin, I don't know if you've seen, but Brian Macco, man, hooked me up with some new hammers.
Very nice.
I don't know how to use them, but I'll look good.
I know how to use them.
Yeah,
come with instructions.
You want to put the pointy end away from your head. Generally.
Yeah, good idea.
Right.
Yes,
generally
it hurts.
Yeah.
So Kev, tell us what's going on in your life up in the cold area.
Well, right now I got interrupted by the alarm going off at the shop, so they called me, and that, of course, threw me off the stream. So I apologize for that.
Oh, no problem.
But everything's okay. Yeah, it's a little chilly here. We're outside of St. Louis in the southern part of Illinois, so we're in that part of the year where last weekend I was driving around in the convertible and it was 74 degrees and it's supposed to snow tomorrow. So
yeah,
kind of these false starts on getting spring off the ground. But it's a timely topic for your show tonight because we're getting events planned and super excited about some shows coming up and just excited to get out and do more stuff this year. So
Right.
hoping the stupid gas prices kind of come around and that doesn't discourage people to get out and drive their hot rods around, but we'll see.
Right.
That's a big factor too. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So first off,
$7 a day a
yeah,
gallon
crazy.
for diesel.
Crazy. So, Kev, tell us about your shop, and where we can find you on the internet, and
Sure.
tell us a little bit about the show coming up.
So the shop is called the V8 Speed and Resto Shop, and you can find us at v8speedshop.com. And we also produce V8 TV, which is a YouTube channel and also television. In fact, we just got a new distribution deal for V8 TV and our Muscle Car of the Week show on a streaming app called High Octane, which you can find on Amazon, and you'll find that on Apple TV shortly and Roku.
Nice.
So if you're a Prime user, you can just search that app called High Octane and find some cool automotive stuff. And they even let our stuff in, so that's even better.
Kevin, did you recently make some social media posts with through your shop?
We have been, yeah.
Because I could swear I just saw a V8 Speed Shop somewhere, with a cool picture of a car, and it was new to me. So
Well, then it's working. So yeah, thank you.
yeah, it just I guess it found my feed is what it did because it's
Yeah, right.
I like stuff. Okay, good.
Very cool. Thanks for the feedback.
Well, now I'll follow you.
I appreciate that, and I'll reciprocate. So the shop is primarily muscle car performance and restoration. We've got 24 people on staff, and we do absolutely everything in-house except engine machine work. So
Okay.
mechanical, rust repair, fabrication, interior, paint, body.
Nice.
And we're very fortunate that we're very busy, like a lot of different, shops these days. Everybody seems to be really busy, which is great. Of course, we're all waiting for parts and, all that kind of stuff. But I think we've got 40 cars in process right now.
How big is your shop?
We've got 4 buildings.
Okay.
So it's a good sized place. Square footage, I couldn't even tell you right now. It's kind of convoluted. And Lewis mentioned my wife, so she's the operations manager, and she runs the whole show. So
Wow, great.
she has a way of keeping the wheels on the bus that, I'm not a people manager, so
Yeah.
I like to play with cars.
Yeah. Hey, that's it. You got to play to your strengths and know your weaknesses, and that's the key to business. That's the key to life, but
Yeah,
to business
really.
for sure.
For sure. And what I learned is I'm a huge fan of the the Apollo space program and early NASA stuff and Gene Kranz, who was mission control through all the Apollo missions.
Right.
He said, find the smartest people you can, put them together, and let them take you to the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what we try to do is hire the best and brightest and give them a culture where they can do what they love to do. And Kelly's real great about getting resources and tools, and we're very flexible on personal time and whatnot. In fact, just last week we changed our shop hours. We're working 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. with a half-hour lunch break, and it allows guys to get off early enough in the day where if they have a personal appointment or something, they can still hit those things.
Right.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Might be back.
Well, who moved it? Oh, there he is.
He's working on it, I guess. And
And he's gone.
I got a great Apollo story to tell him too.
Alarm probably went off again.
well, you got like
Maybe
a
we'll-
operations manual or something sitting on the shelf.
Tyler, there's always a story. You know that. There's always a story. And Tyler, you mentioned something a few weeks ago. These guys?
Oh, old school.
Nice.
Old school.
This is for the dimmer switch for the floor.
I mean,
the floor mounted high beam. So it's got the
Tyler don't know what the high beam is. The floor
Nice,
button.
nice.
I had these bolted to my compressor in the garage. I had to sit there and unscrew them to bring them in just for the prop value, but
Yeah.
we'll do whatever we have to do for the show.
Right.
So if anybody's in Springfield, Massachusetts area this weekend, there's an indoor car show at the Big E.
You said,
Can you hear the crickets? Nobody's going to be in Springfield, Massachusetts this weekend.
gold.
Tell ya.
I just drove
Sorry.
right through there. I drove right through there on. You said Massachusetts. Never mind.
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
Yep. No, I drove right through Baltimore
Oh, cool.
on Monday.
You did? You were only
Yep.
45 minutes away.
Yep. I went to New Jersey.
All right.
That's good.
Sorry about that, guys.
No, you're right.
The alarm company called again, and they're using this device, and then it kicks me off. And
Wow.
so
Wow.
Tell them to stop.
I know.
Yeah. Hope everything's okay over there.
We've got a friend of ours who does some cleanup after hours, and she's in there having a hard time with the alarm, apparently. So I told the alarm company, don't call me for the next hour, okay?
Cool.
Okay. But anyway, we're very fortunate the shop's going well, and thank you for asking. And there's, a lot of the stuff we do are rest type cars. We got a lot of C3 Corvettes getting modern drive lines in them, and
Nice.
it's fat fendered cars up to modern stuff. And when we're talking about shows, the past couple of years have been tough on everybody because a lot of events obviously didn't happen, and we host one in particular that we had to shelve, which is I'm happy to say it's coming back for 22, that we call the Drivein Cruise, where in the town of Belleville, Illinois, which is about a half an hour from us, they still have a full size drive theater that was built in 1949, and it's still operating. So we have an event there where it's a giant car show at the drive-in and then a movie. So it's $20 to get in for you and everybody you can fit in the car. And people come and hang out, for the big car show. And the variety is pretty wild. We get imports to custom vans to, 50s customs. And, a guy shows up on a Viper and it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
And we throw it out to the masses on what movie to show and let people vote online. And then they pick that, and then we show it on the big screen. It's going to be August 20th on Saturday night, and it's going to be a good time. Last time we did it in 19, we had over 400 cars. So
Wow.
hopefully people and that was on a Thursday night. This will be the first time we're doing it on a Saturday. So
That's great.
hopefully looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
I might be able to make that one.
Before I forget, which I will do before I fall asleep, I got to tell you my NASA story. That's
Oh, right on.
you just sparked a memory. For 20 some odd years, I wore a flat top fade, and I was using a new barber at the time. And I went in, and he didn't understand what I wanted, so I came back the next day and I printed a picture of Gene Kranz in the mission control room from the Apollo 13 movie. I said, this is what I want. And I said, yeah, I'd really like to be him, but I can't.
Right.
I'd like to look like him, but I can't. I said, but that's the haircut that I want. I said, it's like more like a military, like a Marine haircut. So he says, okay, I understand. So it ends up, he says, but who is this guy? He was a Russian barber, is what he was. They're all Russians. Wow. I said, he's the guy who beat your ass to the moon. And then I said, shit, now this guy's going to take like sharp instruments to my head, right?
That's it.
But,
yeah.
But he respected it enough to do the right thing. So
that's cool.
That's how I got my haircut.
Yeah.
So only Ray could somehow link a barber story together with an Apollo NASA story. And
Gene Kranz.
Perfect.
It's that name. Yeah, that's the name. That is the picture I used.
And still involve the Russians. You got to be careful about that.
It's very timely.
There was a whole shop full of
timely events.
Yeah, I was surrounded.
Well, and that philosophy, not to geek out on the space program, but there's so many things to take away from that. And if you look at 400,000 individuals worked on that program to put two guys on the moon. So how do you manage that? And Kranz had this amazing ability to identify, people that were good, and then he'd test them. If you couldn't walk the walk, you're gone. You had to prove it. But then he was able to get out of the way and just, let everybody bring it to fruition. And that's the beauty of that. And of course, he was and still is an insanely sharp guy, very decisive, doesn't mess around, knows what he wants.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is if everybody recognizes the goal and everybody understands the goal, then we can all get there.
Right.
But if people that don't know what they're supposed to be doing or don't know, in our case, what the customer wants or, what this car is supposed to do, then you can't get there. So that's a big part of it.
Well, the other cool tie-in is Jim, who's I don't know where he is on your screen, but and I live on Long Island, which is the home of Grumman Aerospace.
There you go.
I mean, it's literally, for me, it's 8-10 miles away. So it's that was where the LEM was developed, and
that's cool.
Yeah, well, a lot of history here with aviation and aerospace. Yeah.
I recently learned, so I'm not from this area originally. I grew up in Chicago, and then I lived in Los Angeles when I worked for Hot Rod TV for a while. But I am now close to Boeing, and Boeing is still using a test facility for measuring gauges that was used in the Gemini program.
Oh, wow.
And it's used 30 miles from here, which is pretty wild. So
yeah, that's great.
Very cool.
And while we're throwing famous names around, back in the 80s, I worked at an electrical manufacturing company, and I was doing metallurgy. And one of the new pieces of equipment that we got that I was trained on was a thermal imaging camera. And that was like big doings back then.
Sure.
And I look at the name on it, it said Hughes, Hughs. I'm like, could this be the same Hughes? Like, yeah, Howard Hughes. It was Hughes, Hughes Aviation. I'm like, wow. It's like I feel. I mean, this wasn't his equipment or anything, right? I just felt honored to work on something that had that name on it.
Yeah. Hey, it's really interesting how the aerospace world and even parts of the military and the hot rod world all come together. And I'm sure we all know the story of how land speed racing kind of got started with the GIs that came back from World War II, and
right,
they identify a scrap belly tank and
belly tanks, put
motor in it and wheels and go fast. With their newly found skills that they learned in the service. I was at when I lived in Los Angeles, I lived in Redondo Beach actually, and out my back window I could see the Northrop Grumman building that was building parts for the International Space Station at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on in there, but I later learned. But that particular year I went to the SEMA show, and I was standing out front talking to a guy, and I don't know how the topic came up. I think we were talking about Pontiacs and performance Pontiacs.
Okay.
And somebody mentioned the lifting body program from NASA. Do you remember that? So the lifting body is a delta wing threat that was not powered. It was a precursor to the space shuttle.
There we go. Tyler's got it. Yeah.
There you go. There it is. Yeah. So when they tested this lifting body, they towed it with a car out at Edwards Air Force Base, and at El Mirage. And the car they used was a 421 Pontiac 3-deuce 4-speed convertible.
Nice.
And I met a guy that drove that car and knew where it was. It still exists. Hemmings did a piece on it a couple of years ago.
Oh, wow.
And they needed that thing because they packed the back seat full of engineers in white coats. They're looking at this thing through binoculars as they're trying to fly this giant kite with, an astronaut in it. Test pilot.
Yeah. That's great.
It's pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Very cool. Man, that is like you said, the interlaced hobby. I mean, B-17 seats are still being scrounged and used in rat rods and hot rods. So yeah.
A few years ago, I got the land speed bug. I mean, I've always been a fan of Bonneville and all that stuff, but I'd been out there as a kid, but not as an adult to appreciate Speed Week. So 4 years ago, a buddy of mine and I went out there, and I was just so taken with the grassroots level of that sport, because there's no Budweiser on the wall, there's no corporate sponsors of any kind. But yet these people are pushing the envelope and doing things that are just mind-bendingly fast and high tech, next to a guy who's doing something with a 50cc motorcycle, trying to break at 84 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And the crew, all the crews are just volunteers and buddies and people hanging out, and it's got the historical component of being, an over an 80-year sport. So past 4 years I've been out there every year, and I just attended the banquet for the SCTA at the Grand National Roadster Show in California last month or in January. And been working with those guys a little bit at the SCTA. So the cool outcome of that is launching a new podcast kind of in conjunction with the SCTA, which is going to be called Bonneville Up to Speed. And it's a whole land speed based podcast where we're going to have car builders and racers, engine builders and officials and legends and all that kind of stuff. So
nice. Speaking of a legend, here's one in our midst right now. Terry.
What's up, my brothers? How's everyone doing? I didn't know OC was going to be in the house. What's happening, OC?
Surprise guest.
Surprise. And I got a surprise for him too. Yo, that video is going to be coming out of your wife.
The public one, hopefully, yeah. It's not very often somebody can say, "I'm putting out a video of your wife," and it's
very true.
Yeah. Well, I guess I should explain. When we were in PRI, like what's called, Kevin rolled up on me. We always have a good time. It's always great to see him and Kelly. And we posed the question about color matching bumpers. And Kevin, he broke out his opinion. And then Kelly, she went a little deep. She even pointed out to a picture of an engine that was partially painted and it had like chrome accents. And she was like, it looks horrible. And so it was just like, we might have to get a show with her, Keeping It Real with Kelly, because like she just broke it down.
Yeah, she put it down.
Oh, it was beautiful.
So Brian, listen, here's your chance, Brian. Since we know now that Kevin has a preference to color match or not bumpers and chrome, what's the other car question that you got to ask him?
So which is the one, a 55, a 56, or a 57?
Chevy. What's your personal choice? Your
personal choice.
Well, that's tough because I'm a guy who likes just about everything, and I find something cool in it. So I will qualify that, not to be a pain in the ass, but I will say that if it's going to be a race car, drag car, I'm going to go with a 55. If it's going to be more of a custom or, a street cruiser, I would do a 57.
Sorry, Terry.
Not looking good. Okay.
But I love 56 too. So
okay, fair enough.
I was gonna say, and if you need to drive to the bad part of town and leave your car for a while, you drive a 56.
No, they probably won't even do anything to it.
That's the reason why you drive it. That's why you take that one.
Yeah, that's why you have your beater. It's
that's your really nice 56 in the shop right now. That's a two-tone post. It's white on the top with maroon on the bottom.
Okay.
And it's got a few custom touches that were done a long time ago that some of the younger guys in our shop weren't really familiar with. So it's got French antennas and it's got little pinstripe accents with cherries pinstriped on it.
Yeah.
And it's a very tastefully done car.
It doesn't have fender skirts, does it?
No skirt.
Oh, good.
Have lake pipes and it's not
lake pipes. Cool.
Ooh.
But what's cool about it is the 56 needs every single piece of its original trim to look right.
Yes. I'll tell you, as a 55 owner and a lover of 55s, I really like the trim on a 56. I think that just makes that car special. I like that better than the 55 trim, truthfully.
I do too, and that's kind of going. You can cut one up and radius the wheel arches on a 55 and build a race car, pull the grill out and everything. In a 57, you can shave that thing completely smooth and slam it, put flipper caps to 20s. It doesn't matter. But a 56, you kind of got to leave alone, in my opinion.
Yeah. I follow you.
I think that was the best. I think that was possibly the best answer that we've gotten. I think,
Does that mean no matter what you do to it, it just isn't right?
I think that was the best answer you could possibly get for not saying 56.
Yeah.
That was cool.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
We'll
So
give
Kevin-
you half a point, Terry.
Half a point. So Kevin, what this is about is Terry. Every guest that we have on, he'll ask what would be their favorite out of the three. So I like the 56 myself, and Terry likes the 56. So
Winner.
So
The best part about the 56 is when you're sitting in it, you think you're in a 55 because they look identical inside.
that's it.
So
You know,
This conversation's over.
yeah, I know.
You just got here, Terry. Come on.
I'm fortunate enough to be at a lot of events around the country doing, I MC and do a lot of host work for the four-wheel Jamboree series and for the off-road expos and the Street Machine Nationals and, everything from muscle cars to trucks and everything in between. And it really bothers me, and you guys have all seen this, that there are these dividing lines that form online or, it's not so much in person, it's mostly online, where somebody will post a picture of something, and let's just say it's a 56, right? And 56, and like Terry, and painted all the trim. And the hate that he will get is brutal. And what I try to get out there is like, look, even if it's not your cup of tea, we got to stick together, right?
There's
Because
no room for
there
that.
are those who want to take all of this away from us so that we don't have the freedom to do this to our cars, and B, we won't even have the cars.
Right.
So if you don't like it, that's great. You don't have to like everything,
you
but
don't have to say everything.
for a war over, we got to kind of band together and put my brother with his import and, my other brother with his Cadillac and another guy with a truck, and let's all advance the industry, because the more stuff that's out there, the stronger the industry gets, and then the more we have to do.
Kevin, I'll make an admission here. It's probably 15, 20 years ago when the tuners were starting to come up. And I've had, I've had foreign cars for many, many years. There's a place for them. Never had a hot rod foreign car, but, and I was down on them and I used to badmouth them. And then I realized, I think the things were starting to change, and I realized, hey, I know what it was. I rolled up on a guy on the street. He was at a light in a Civic, lowered, and all I saw was the giant monster tack and the big red shift light. And it hit me. And I said, you know what? He's helping keep this industry going, because all of us guys, we have our speed parts. Our cars are built. If that means Autometer can stay in business or whatever company he's buying parts from, I said, I'm with him. I got to give him the credit, and I flipped. I said, "That's." I got.
And the thing is, not too long ago, because those were back then, like in the '90s, those were the muscle cars as far as like what you could afford. When we were in school, what could we afford? Like a 75 Camaro. That was my first car, 75 Camaro. And you best believe I had the little tack on the thing. So it's like Kevin said, it's keeping the hobby alive, and we might as well even think about the electric cars. Now that's going to be coming in soon, and you got to embrace it. But there's one thing that he said that should stand out that we just glossed over. That he said that the 56 looks the best out of the three, are left alone. Because he said that you can modify the 55 if he's going to drag it, right? And he also
I thought we were done with this. I thought this conversation was already finished.
Well, that probably gave you half a point.
So let's start talking
Five
about
and seven look great by himself.
Do I have to mute him? Is that
The
what
man
I got to
said
mute him?
56 looks the best left alone. Thank you, Kevin.
But the 5 and 7 also look best left alone too.
No,
What you do to those two, they're awesome.
I got
The 56 only could be awesome so one way.
That's not exactly what I said there, cover man. The 56, you got to have all the original trim, is what I said.
Right.
You don't necessarily have to leave it alone, but
Right.
just
As long as you got the trim.
Right. Well, even a 57, 57 doesn't look right without the rear spear on the quarter panel. But I've seen guys do an airbrush technique in the middle of that with maybe little Chevy bow ties or different things where they did use the stainless, and I thought that looked great. But the trim was there, and the trim really defines that quarter panel. So taking off on your theme, I agree. Yeah.
Well, and I think Posey built the red 57 for Vic Edelbrock about 12, 15 years ago, and he kept the spear on the side, the one that went straight back, and the one that went down, and he took that stainless out of the middle.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I've seen guys airbrush in the center.
Yeah,
with
and
maybe
this
a
was
little
body.
Chevy bow tie pattern or something. Yeah,
I've
I've even seen the stainless pattern airbrushed in.
Yes,
but whatever.
I thought of that the other day too, because we've got a 55 Chevy Cameo pickup truck in the shop.
Nice truck.
Very cool.
It's a nice truck.
This one, it was, I'm going to call it kind of an early 2000s street route approach. It got a lot of trim removed and some stuff smoothed out, and the customer kind of wants to, update it by bringing it earlier looking, kind of a retro update, if you will.
Right.
And I showed him the orange Cameo that was big on the classic truck.
Yeah.
90s. That was a Sunset Pearl House of Color, but Steve did the 57 air trim on the side. It was dynamite. Built that. Some of that stuff's really cool, timeless.
Yeah. So meet Justin from another hot rod builder. Justin, tell Kevin where you're from.
So I am from Michigan, work at a shop called American Gasser. Our shop started out doing just Willie's Gassers, and now we've branched out to everything. Your 20s, 30s, hot rods, all the way up to new performance cars. We do fab, paint, body, performance work, custom exhaust, you name it.
Very cool.
And just returning, you just returned from a great weekend.
Oh, the best weekend, man. Detroit Autorama, can't beat it.
Yeah.
The cars look great. I didn't see them in person, but what I saw on the internet, they look fantastic. It looked like works of art. Beautiful.
It's nice to see that the community is coming back. This year I think it's going to be a real good year for the automotive industry.
Oh, for sure. I would say we probably didn't have as many cars and booths as we usually do, but it was pretty close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think too, what I'm seeing already at some of the indoor shows, I wasn't in Detroit, but I was at the Grand National Road Show, and it was kind of interesting because the caliber was raised again because now you had people that had an extra couple of years to work. Before brought them out.
I heard they had almost 50 cars in contention for the Riddler this year.
Really?
Yeah.
And some of the cars there were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go back and really tweak them to get them right. You have time. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin.
Pictures, but
Bob Millard?
Bob, I'm sorry, who?
Millard?
I don't know.
Back in the old days, years ago, he used to be one of the head judge guys from ISCA.
Okay.
And he used to be part of that four-wheel drive truck jamboree thing at one point.
Yep. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I don't know him really well. And interestingly, the truck world for me is not necessarily my wheelhouse. I like them. My wife drives a crew cab, long bed, diesel, and she's got a 54 Chevy pickup truck as well. We actually put a 4-speed. It's a 4-speed on the column. So she's a trucker for sure. I always thought they're cool. I just got the opportunity to do some of these events and meet these people and kind of get immersed in that because I always think it's cool to step out of the comfort zone a little bit and be able to meet new people, learn new stuff. And the first four-wheel jamboree that I did, I was coming from this, muscle car, pro touring kind of, street car background. And I was talking to a guy who had a Ford F-150 that you could literally walk under. I mean, this thing was crazy. And I said, how do you set this thing up? I mean, this suspension of this thing. And he's like, well, you got these, radius rods and you can set the angles here. And I'm like, well, it's the exact same thing as a street car or a road race car, camber cast your toe and get your pinion angle right. And, your roll center and your instant center and center of gravity. And he's like, yeah, it's just way up here, instead of being on the ground. So one of the the most fun things that I get to do, and Terry's been out there, is the SEMA Cruise. So it's the end of the SEMA show, and all the cars and trucks are leaving, and they turned that into an event a few years ago where they all snake by, and it's Joe Sebregandio and I host that on microphones. And I'll tell you what, you're going to see one of everything in the world. You know, there's imports, there's exotics, there's trucks, there's luxury cars, there's, you know, cars
Everything
that are
in between.
Yeah, there's a car that might be almost all stock, showing off some piece of stick-on trim, to a Riddler contender, you know, and everything in between. So in order, and you know, Jeeps and everything, and in order to kind of have any kind of knowledge of these things is one of the reasons why I kind of tried to immerse myself in some of these other areas, because, you know, the last thing you want is somebody who's hosting an event that doesn't know what he's talking about. Right. And especially when you have the truck segment is the biggest segment of the automotive aftermarket. The trucks, they're more popular than ever, and that market's just growing and growing. So what we see at the SEMA show is thousands of lifted, you know, giant trucks. And it's like, well, what's the difference between that one and this one and that one? If you don't know, they all look the same. So to be able to dig into those a little bit and share with the audience what they're looking at, you know, and point out what's been done, in addition to the stuff that, you know, I kind of already know, the muscle cars and all the rest of it. So that week is kind of a mind bender because there's so much going on.
Right.
But again, so this is kind of where I get into my appreciation for all this stuff, rather than, you know, kind of pigeonhole into one particular area. So,
well, I want to mention about those trucks. A couple years back, they had Bigfoot, the original Bigfoot at SEMA. Wow. And those new trucks tower it. It makes it look like a Chevette. Mm. And, you know, back in the day, Bigfoot was it.
Bigfoot was the truck.
Yeah, but these new trucks now, man, they're big.
Yes, and well, so Bigfoot started as a truck that was just built with farm parts, essentially. The tires are what they called flotation tires, which are tires that you put on a spraying implement to drive across a field to spray for weeds without crushing all the crop. So they made them real wide and big, you know, so that they were kind of balloons. And Bob Chandler, who I met a few years ago, that started Bigfoot, just an amazing guy, thought, you know, we could make kind of a spectacle out of this if we start putting these, you know, some of these agricultural pieces and build a giant motor and get out there and do some fun stuff. And you're right, to see that today, it's like, oh yeah, well, that's really nothing compared to what you see at the mall, you know.
The original Bigfoot's competition was Gary Bauer with Lone Ranger, and he's actually from the Youngstown area here. And I know Gary, and actually we just rebuilt a replica of the original Lone Ranger about 2.5 years ago now, 3 years ago. And I helped him put it together and do some of the work on it. And actually a good portion of the truck was painted in my shop. A buddy of mine was sub-renting from me for a little while, and he did a lot of the paint work on it. So that's actually pretty cool that he has all kinds of stories about back in the day, about how the two of them were going back and forth on who could fit the biggest tire for a while and all kinds of stuff. So.
Well, it was a monster truck version of Snake and Mongoose. You know, it was this rivalry that people paid money to come see every weekend in different cities because it was just
Don Hewitt and Don Petrodrome. Yeah. I will agree with Kevin, man. If you have an opportunity to go to actually be in a car,
there we go.
There it is right there. Going through Ignited, take it, because it's just a wonderful thing, man. I mean, so many people. I mean, left and right of you. I mean, you're just going through this. And it seems like it takes forever, but it's actually probably like 2 mile little run, maybe going around the stadium. Maybe even a mile.
To get the cars out of the SEMA show, of course, this past year it was a little lighter just because the overall attendance was down for COVID reasons. But in 19, the whole parade started just before 5 o'clock, and we finished up, I think, about 8:30. I mean, it was long.
And I think in 19, that was they closed off some. They didn't let all the cars go through because it was getting late.
Well, the other there in 19,
Got one.
it went out the back, and Elon Musk was digging his tunnel underneath the Vegas Convention Center for his Tesla tunnel thing that they put in Las Vegas. So now, I don't know if you saw that this past year, Terry, but you can get in a Tesla, and it's underground, and it's
I heard about that.
3/4 mile run that takes you between the different buildings. And the idea there is that it's supposed to be autonomous at some point. You'll just go down there, get in the car, nobody will drive you, and you'll get there, And they were digging that hole. They started digging the hole a week before the SEMA Cruise and before Ignited. And it's right in the middle of the route.
Is that what the problem was? Because you know what it was? I was at, you remember Ed Beard's car, the Rum Runner, the one that he did the 55 Bel Air?
Yep.
We were in the car.
That's right.
We were in that car. We were just waiting. We were waiting for hours. People had to shut their cars off because they couldn't move. And so
super dusty and
and we couldn't get through. And we were just like, next thing you know, they closed it off, and that was it.
Yeah.
And so we had the detour.
I was supposed to go to SEMA in 2019 because the Bad Habit monster truck, that's also from Youngstown. And I helped him build that. My shop name was on the side of the SEMA body he had. Ooh. And he's like, oh, yeah, I can put you up. All you got to do is get out there. And I was like flat broke that week. I couldn't make the trip out. So I should have been there with you guys. But
yeah, you should have told me, man. We would have got you out there.
We got you out there.
Yeah, man.
But I didn't know that was the reason why. I just figured there was too many cars.
Yeah, well, there was too many cars for a road that got choked down with a big giant hole in it.
There was too many.
I was there with a couple of the guys from Freeman, who is the company that does all the handling of all of the logistics of the convention center. They're the ones that move all the crates in and out and all the trucks and everything. And they're looking at this and they're like, oh my God. SEMA top management is standing next to me and they're like, oh God, we can't do this again next year. This is awful. So it was kind of lucky that the COVID timing hit and allowed that tunnel to get finished, and then it allowed for the West Hall to get built and finished, so that when we all came back finally this past year, we had this whole new landscape to use, and it was already so that was good.
I think this year is going to be sick. It's going to be. I mean, I think this year is going to be ridiculous. So get your rooms now.
I would say so.
You know what else is nice about Ignited is you get to see cars that you couldn't see because SEMA is so big. You don't see everything. So if you're standing there in the parade, you can see stuff that you missed.
Yeah, it all comes right to you if you get out there.
Yep.
And that's pretty cool too, because a lot of the people in the bleachers are locals. They're just local car guys taking Friday afternoon off to hang out. That weren't part of the show, and they don't get a chance to get inside because they're not in the industry. So it's a nice way to share that.
Yep.
Man. Woo. It was great.
A couple years back, this was probably 2011, maybe 12. We were going to Ignited. Oh, it was the first year they had Ignited, I think. And they had it like away from SEMA, so you had to drive over. And a Jeep ran over a Ferrari, ran up on the back of it. Do you remember that?
I think I've seen pictures of that.
I do.
Oh my God, it was terrible. It was right in front of us. We were like, oh man.
Yeah, there's always a little something. Somebody kind of bumps into somebody, but that was bad. That was a big one.
That was a bad one.
Wow. And the best part is if you get a chance to go to SEMA, you find like the people. Matter of fact, Kevin Ossie. That's how I met him. I just ran up on him. That's exactly how I met him.
Gave me a big hug.
And gave him a huge old hug, and they just sitting out there, and you realize that people just car people, and like they just want to just go up to them and just say what's up. It's great. Yeah. It's great.
Good atmosphere, really is.
No, it's great. I mean, it's a great atmosphere, and you got Kevin Ossie at PRI. He probably heard me before he saw me.
Yeah. I was going to say I could smell you, but that
I had to go back to the 70s and have my high karate on.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I got to say, Lewis and Terry were shooting some video, and doing your thing. And the PRI show, it can get pretty intense because it's hardcore racing, and there's a lot of parts there, and there's a lot of racers there, and a lot of the racers are trying to get sponsorships or trying to get, ahead of the orders for parts to build their car, build their motor, and all this stuff. So a lot of times there's no messing around. And Kelly and I came around the corner and saw you two guys just having a blast, having a great old time, laughing and pointing stuff out and giggling, and we got all sucked up into that. And it was one of the high points of the PRI show this year, was bumping into you guys.
Oh, great.
Like I said, like there's certain things that I look forward to when I go to shows like SEMA and stuff like that. And you're definitely one of the people who I have to see. And it was funny. See, you wasn't there, Kevin, but Lewis told a bunch of girls that I was Muhammad Ali's son.
Oh, God.
They were swarming. One of them was
getting pencils and paper. They were autographs.
Oh my goodness! Which girls were they? They were the what girls were they? They were the
they were signing people up. They were signing people up for something.
The PRI girls, I think they were. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't the girls handing out the free samples, was it?
Nope. And one of them was like, "Are you really Muhammad Ali's son?" I was like, "Absolutely not."
Absolutely not.
I'm his nephew.
Nephew.
I can't lie.
He opens up that door and then he walks away.
Yeah, oh God.
He's good for that.
Hey, listen, we have a good time when we're at these car events, man. Really,
that's what it's all about,
Including.
Yeah.
Official cookie.
Yeah. So Kevin, you didn't meet Tyler because he had like walked away from us at that time. He had left with some other people.
Yeah.
But he stayed with us at the hotel, and we had a cookie run. He went on a cookie run, got the cookies and milk.
There you go. It's a very important.
I would say that cookie run started in New York.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I went to New York to visit Terry, and his wife went to bed, and so he was like, "Come on, man, we gotta go get some cookies." So me and him went on a run.
Love it.
So Lewis, they doing the Hot Rod Super Nationals at Canfield again?
No, I don't think so. It's just so hard to get people to support it. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people would wait for the show to be over and just hang out at the mall. You know how we went to the mall?
Yeah.
And so instead of paying, a couple bucks to go support the show, they're like, I ain't paying. I can just wait at the mall. And I tell people, I was like, look, they're bringing an event here that, it lifts up the whole community. And people just don't understand.
Yeah. And then
they understand. They just don't want to pay.
And then on top of that, a lot of the communities don't want the loud cars and all that stuff. Like it's been a tradition for years and years that people would set up on 224 in Boardman, and it'd be like watching a parade. You set up on the side with your chairs or whatever, and you watch the hot rods go by. And the entire Boardman police force was out there kicking those people off of parking lots and stuff.
Yeah.
And so now you can't get that enjoyment out of it either,
Yeah, one weekend a year.
Kind of like what Royal Oak's been doing up at Woodward for the Dream Cruise, where they don't let anybody pull in and park anywhere unless you are going into that business to spend money, which I get to some extent, but I mean, like,
but it's Woodward.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's Woodward, and it's Dream Cruise weekend. I pulled into a gas station with a couple of buddies. One of us needed gas, the other two did not, but we were just gonna, hang there. We left our cars running off to the side, out of the way. We were just standing there. We weren't there 2.5 minutes, and a police car rolled in and said, "Hey guys, you can't park here." We're standing there with our cars running, and they're like, "Nope, you gotta go."
Yeah.
So it's just their communities everywhere are cracking down on that kind of stuff.
Yes, and they were all over it too this past year.
I remember going down to Maple Grove, Super Chevy, probably early 90s, and we were staying in Reading, and I can't remember, there was some road, and everyone's just packed along, in all these parking lots, and just watching all the cars going back and forth. It was like a giant cruise night. That was a good time. And, a lot of people were just parked in whatever parking lots, don't care,
Mm-hmm. I think it still is allowed to go on outside of St. Paul, Minnesota. So I was up for the Street Machine Nats up there this past year, and the road that goes into the fairgrounds, it's about a 3-mile stretch to get to the highway. And between the highway and the fairgrounds, you have 3 or 4 strip malls on both sides. And like you're saying, everybody's out there with their lawn chairs and coolers and lining the streets. And you get a few idiots that are, doing burnouts and looking like a Mustang leaving a Cars and Coffee, which you don't want. But the cops are actually really tolerant, really cool about it because they get it. They get that all these people are spending money here, and people like me came in from out of town, and a lot of people come from far away, and they're trying to, share that experience with everybody. One thing that was kind of neat in Minnesota that I didn't expect was in one of the giant parking lots was a show within a show. There was a whole lowrider show there. And you got these guys, with some legit awesome looking lowriders up on 3 wheels and the whole thing. And everybody was just having a great time. It was another great example of people just getting along and hanging out and having fun. And it was cool to see that because too often, like you're saying, the cops shut everything down as soon as the sun starts to go down and you're done. It's not cool.
Like in Maryland, was that Ocean City?
Ocean City Cruise. Yep.
It was like 3-4 years ago. It was a huge show, and the cops and no one wants to go back.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, there was more to that, but yeah.
No,
Terry, you ever gone to Lake George or Ray?
Years ago, yeah. But
I went up there. I guess
that's on my bucket list.
Syracuse National is nice. Another great show.
And you know what it is? I remember we were just going up there for vacation, me and my wife and my son, and we got up there on a Thursday night, right? And you could start seeing the cars parked on the side, and I was like, "What's going on up there?" I didn't know about the car show being that weekend. And I was like, "Well, these muscle cars parked up here."
Yeah, you told her you didn't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's why the hotel was so much more money.
It was a great show, though. No, I mean, you got all these cars parked on the side of the road, and it's almost like I imagine what it was like somewhere in the year, probably like in the mid 70s, where you had like the 57 Chevys driving around every now and then, 55 Bel Airs.
Notice he didn't say 56s.
I know.
I saw one of my favorite Fords. I saw one of my favorite Fords, which is if I was a Ford guy,
you still can be.
I love cars together.
Falcon XB.
No.
I got you on tape, Terry.
No, and you can record this. I'll stick by it.
I can get the audio now, Brian. I figured out how to do it.
2 of my favorite year Mustangs, 69, number 1, and 70. Those are my 2 favorite years. And any given day, it could be the other one. But if I was a Ford guy, I would absolutely be a Torino man.
Yeah, Torinos are cool.
I would absolutely be a 69, 70 Torino dude.
Nice car.
With the hideaway headlights.
I had a friend
70, right?
back in 1975. One of my friends rolled up with one of those with a 428 and a 4-speed.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
You couldn't keep that car on the ground. It was ridiculous. I mean, it was all over the road. Just the power was ridiculous.
We got a 70 in our shop.
This car, and I was like saying, "Oh my God, I don't remember this car being this long." A 69, 70 Torino. Them cars are long, and they look like they're chopped.
They do have a nice roof line, yeah.
They have like a nice line to them, and I was just like looking at the car. I was like, man, I don't remember this car being this, because you don't see them that often. And I was just like, I don't remember this car being this big. I mean, this is like 68, 69 Charger big. It's a big car.
They're deceivingly big because the style doesn't look like it's that big.
No.
One of the things I always thought was cool about the 70 Torino, and then you saw it on the 71 Mustang, which a lot of people, the 71 Mustang took a giant left turn, and people, that's open to conversation. But both of those cars, Ford really went to aircraft for design inspiration. So when you look at that 70, like if it's a Torino GT with a Super Cobra jet, the tail panel has a black honeycomb panel.
That's right.
That's straight from aircraft exhaust or an intake.
Yeah.
And leading edge of the nose has a peak in it that's designed to be aircraft style. And you, Mr. Painted Bumpers, those 71 Mustangs, look at the Mach 1s, they have a painted bumper that is so tucked in and so sculpted that I think those cars, people tend not to pay that much attention to them because they're such a departure from the 69 and 70. And, a lot of people said they ruined the Mustang when that one came out. But if you get a chance to look at one of those, you're going to be like, damn, that's really neat that we did that.
And even backing up, not again,
Mach 1. Yes,
not being a traditional Ford guy, when I see those 6970 front bumpers, the way they sculpted them around, I restored one of those cars last year, and for someone else, and I would just sit there and look at that bumper and say, man, they nailed this so perfect, and I never hear anybody talk about it. It's like,
it's a 69 Mustang. It is the best looking car.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
I don't like to talk good things about Ford. I'm sorry.
And you know what other car? You know what other car has a really nice bumper? That's really that came painted. The Cuda, 70 Cuda,
Sure.
77.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Cuda Enduro bumpers and even the chrome ones, if you look at the rear,
yes,
those things fit so tight.
They do.
A lot of people think that somebody cut them and fit them.
Well, they're small. They're not big bumpers either. They're
nice and
dainty.
Like
a 69 Trans Am
with the big nose.
Didn't that have the Enduro bumper? It was kind of painted body color.
It had half of an Enduro bumper, 69 Trans Am.
The center was chrome.
There's chrome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it had a chrome bumper. The
center was chrome. Yeah.
We just restored one of those.
That's an underrated car. I don't care what anyone says. That's my favorite year Trans. That's my favorite year.
Well, it was always it was always impossible to get too because they didn't make that many.
No, and anybody who's been through restoring the nose of one of those cars understands what
they're tough. The Enduro noses are tough.
Yeah.
To put that together.
That sucked.
Yeah.
We did one a few years ago that lives in Australia now, as a matter of fact. But that piece above the chrome bumper that goes right between the hood and that leading edge of the bumper is Enduro and rubber from the factory, and we just could not get anything to fit. So we ended up remaking all that stuff out of fiberglass so that we could tighten it up.
There's so many pieces to the front end of that car.
There is.
Just from the fenders forward, there's so many pieces. And everything's adjustable, and you got to line everything up.
Yeah, and those crazy body bushings that they have in those cars are tricky.
And years ago, going back, even to in the 80s, nobody could figure out at that time. No one had to figure out how to paint it without it cracking. They had to use like the elastopolymer products, which weren't readily available at the time. So that was a nightmare on top of it.
So you know what? We had a Heartstopper. We worked on a 71 Firebird. It was a Formula, and it came to our shop with a 468 Pontiac that the guy wanted to do an E85 conversion on.
That Chassis John.
Well,
he did an 81. Yeah, he made his an 81.
Yeah, well, this one, he wanted it to be, he lived in Iowa where there's a lot of corn and a lot of E85s. He wanted this car to run on E85, high compression Pontiac. But the trick was the car was painted a metallic blue, dark blue metallic, and it had ghost flames from the front all the way to the quarters. And the 71, of course, has that, Enduro nose on it. And we took the whole front clip off to do the motor swap and a bunch of suspension stuff. And when it came time to put the nose back on the car, the nose had been stored on a rack, and two pieces of the rack put pressure on the nose.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it had dimples, right?
Right.
So we traced it all the way back to the guy that painted the car and said, we need to shoot this, and we got to match the ghost flame, and, we need the paint. Oh, paint's discontinued, of course,
Yeah.
Well, I got half a bottle of flake here, and I might have some of the base, whatever. So our painter, we're all scratching our heads, and I said, I got a Hail Mary. Let's just leave this thing outside in the sunlight for a couple days.
Yeah.
And sure enough, the dimples just released.
Nice.
It was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm off to go to bed. I'll hopefully meet up with you guys next week.
Okay.
All right, Scott.
Take
Good
care of
talking to
yourselves,
you.
guys.
Here, man.
Be well.
You know what? Kevin, you're the guy to ask because you restored probably countless cars. Let me ask you a question. When would you use rubber bushings for the body, and when would you use polyurethane? Because I subscribe to the notion that if you're going to drive the car in the street, I don't care what you're doing, because like I'm doing my 71 Chevelle. I'm going back to rubber bushings because the car's quick. It's still going to be able to go around the twisties and do some autocrossing, because I'm not the guy to drive that car to its limits. That car would drive me to my limit. And I'm thinking that rubber bushings on this car, because one, the car's not sitting outside anymore. Because when I took the rubber bushings off the car before, they still were intact. And that's from 71.
Lucky you.
So I would imagine the rubber is probably, the durometer of rubber is probably a little bit more firmer than what it was back then, possibly. And like I said, it's not seeing the smell. It's not seeing the salt. It's not seeing all the elements that it saw for the first pre-me, should I say.
Sure.
So what do you say?
I tend to agree with you. I mean, a lot of times rubber does a great job, and like you said, it's 50 years old, and you know it lasted that long. Most cars that you're going to restore now are still running the original rubber body bushings. You know, they made it far. Urethane, it does add another element of harshness to the car, and it takes a little comfort away, adds some noise. And urethane gets tricky because we found that some of the bushings are not consistent height, and all of a sudden you start getting into body panel alignment problems and
Wow.
fitment because
I heard that.
yeah,
I never saw that part. I didn't even think about that.
if you're going to do it, you got to do all.
Oh yeah.
What we like to do is have a good set of reproduction rubber ones on hand that we can measure if somebody wants either aluminum or polyurethane, and then we can get that spec so that we can make sure that they're all consistent. Now, I think Detroit Speed sells an aluminum set for F body that are shorter. It's designed to lower the car. And if you put those in the wrong spots, you're screwed.
Yeah.
I got to say too, I'm using polyurethane in my car, in my Pontiac, and I don't know. I've used polyurethane on a lot of suspension components over the years, and now I did all the body bushings, the mounts, and then of course the suspension, it's polyurethane and Delarum in certain areas, and I don't really see that harshness that you're talking about, Terry. I mean, yeah, the car is stiff. The car is. I mean, it doesn't wallow at all. It doesn't move.
What's your wheel and tire?
What's that?
What's your wheel and tire? What's your tire sidewall size?
I'm using 17-inch rims. The fronts are 245. 245.
That's why you're not feeling the harshness.
Well, it's a small sidewall. That's what I'd like to change. I can tell you, I have it written down here.
I believe if you go
in my 20s.
See, I'm a firm believer. If you go to 1970, right, and you have a time capsule, let's just say, and you bring back, let's say, a Chevelle SS, right? You bring that car back with its, completely just like how it was brand new, with its 14-inch bi-ply, with it, and you take those rims off, right? You slap a set of 19s and 20 and maybe 18s in the front, 19 or 18s on that car, right? That car is going to handle great. I think that car is going to handle. I mean, that's where because you don't have that flex in the wheel.
It was Firestone.
Right now, if you go and change the bushings from rubber to poly on the sway bars, leave the car alone. I think that car, you take it to autocross, you probably do some respectable time.
I think it was Firestone did a demonstration in like 1982 or something like that. They took a Chevy Camaro. I think it was a Camaro. It might have been something different, but they ran it on a road course with a professional driver, and they averaged his lap times and stuff on the factory equipment 15s. And then they swapped the same tire on a 16-inch wheel on the car. And he ran the same course again, same car, same day, same everything. And he was like an average of like 2% faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just from same tire, same rubber composition, same width, just shorter sidewall. And the car
I'll tell you, driving the car, I can take on and off ramps, almost like right-hand turns. it's like 90-degree turns.
Now, here's a question, right? Do you think that you would have that same ability if you had rubber? Do you think you would have felt the difference?
I think it's definitely more the tires and the suspension changes I've made than the body bushings, without a doubt.
Okay.
It's definitely the tires and especially the suspension changes.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. No two ways about it.
Because they say that these polyurethanes are just like, no, they're not. I'm sorry.
No, they're not. Of course they're not. Yeah.
We've done a lot of suspension rebuilds using the Delrin bushings in a stock control arm. And the trade-off is, you're not spending quite as much for a tubular arm, and you're retaining geometry. And the ones we've done this on are all F bodies, Camaro Firebirds. So we do the Goldstrin modification where you remount the upper control arm to give it more caster. So that's what a modern tubular control arm will give you, is that caster change without having to drill the frame.
Actually, Kevin, in the control, I'm using control arms from Global West, and they use what's called a negative G,
the negative roll
technique, which changes the camber curve. It changes the camber on the front, and it makes a huge difference in an A body. This is on an A body.
It makes a
night and day. But
even by remounting the original, but putting that better bushing, allowing the suspension to do what it's supposed to do, it makes that car handle 100 times better. And Shelby also, with the original.
Yeah, they relocated them. We learned that,
Yeah, he remounted the uppers, and at 66, they lowered the whole car.
Yeah.
And stock off the Ford parts. But
Terry,
it's a 1-inch drop.
To your point, Terry, years ago, I had a 73 Monte Carlo, big car, a 71 Riviera, huge car. And to those cars, I just changed the coil springs, new Moog springs, gas shocks. This is back in the 80s. And just polyurethane sway bar bushing. And the cars handle totally different.
Oh, it's a night and day, because they put those rubber bushings on the control arms. You're going to feel that as well. That's going to pull some of that lean.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, now my Pontiac now doesn't move at all. Doesn't. I mean, literally. And you push the fender, it's like pushing on a desk. You can't move the car. And you say, how could you drive this car? But you drive it, and the suspension works.
Now, Kevin, you saying that you use that method where you drill holes. Now, do you go upward? Do you raise the control arm up and back, or?
Yeah, basically what it does is if the front of the car is this way, right? I'm looking at myself in the camera, things backwards. It basically elevates the front mount a bit, and then it moves both of them back. And on the Camaro and Firebird, it does. Part of the reason for doing it that way is just having solid material to drill into on the subframe,
right?
Because you don't want to enlarge an existing hole. You want fresh holes. But that's really all it does. And you can jump online and download the template and do it yourself. Now, on an A body, like what you're doing, it's a different story.
Terry, you need this book right here.
I got that book.
Mark Savitsky.
Savitsky, yes.
It's like the Bible of A body handling. It's phenomenal. Yeah. If you have it, No,
I read that book back and forth, all those books from CarTech,
I would say don't overthink it. I think you're overthinking it.
I pretty much made my decision when I'm
chuck the polys in there and get it over.
Well, no, even use the rubber. You know what? Because I think if I was to put rubber body bushings in my car right now and drive it, I don't think I'd have that nothing to
feel like
complain
a total
about.
slush box. It would oversteer like crazy and
it'd be like having the
7.75
by 14 bias ply tires again.
Right.
I don't think it'd make. So don't overthink it. Use the rubber.
I'm already going with rubber. I already got the rubber. This is for my 67 as well, so I already got.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be fine with that.
Yeah.
I just want to make it a little bit. You know what it was? Because when I built the car, I made it more race inspired that I could drive on the street instead of street inspired that I could just take on the racetrack.
That's exactly what I did. I did the same thing. I was buying good stuff, and when I drove it, I said, "Holy crap! I built a car that I'll never hit the performance level of this car as a driver. It won't have." And I was even thinking about dialing it back. And I said, "Man, I spent a lot of money
I've learned it's always good to have a little too much.
Yeah. So it's going to stay. Yeah.
Yeah.
What Tim is thinking.
The biggest thing is getting everything to play along, and to get the alignment specs right, and to be able to work with an alignment shop that will do what you want.
Exactly.
So, another nod to my wife being very proactive in our business. One of our lead technicians was working with a local alignment shop, and we would tell them the specs that we want, and we get the car back, and it has all the original specs right out of the book. The zero caster, and it's like, no, we asked you to do this differently. So she said, well, screw it, we're going to get a rack. So we ended up getting a digital Hunter Eagle
beautiful
machine that we can do our own alignments on and set the cars up the way they need to be.
Right.
And what we find is you'll set the thing up and then go drive it and come back and go, no, it's still not there. It needs a little bit more tow or a little less or whatever. And you go through that. Or if it's a coilover car, we got to, change the ring rate, or we got to valve it differently and all that stuff. Yeah. And spending the time doing that rather than, you guys know, you can't take the parts out of the box and put them on and expect it to be done. Mm-hmm. So that last refinement time with somebody who knows what they're doing can take the exact same car with the exact same parts and turn it into something totally different and far more enjoyable if you're persistent with it.
Yeah, but you're so right. I did the same thing. Global West supplied me with the alignment specs.
Yeah.
They want, and I took it to a guy that I know who I knew would do what I wanted, and he understood 100%. He goes, "Oh yeah, you can't align this car like a stock car."
Those guys are really hard to find because those guys in those shops now, all they're looking for is green and red. Those alignment machines have made it so easy.
That's right.
Anybody could do it because all you gotta do. I mean, especially like a Hunter machine, they had the video on there. All I got to do is say, hit the video, and it will show you what nuts, what bolts, what to turn. And again, like I said, you're looking for green. And as soon as everything gets into the green, you print it and ship it because
and I'm the guy that if there's a tolerance range, I want them all to the same exact side of the tolerance range.
You want that arrow right in the middle.
Exactly. Yeah. But you're right, Brian. Guys, they made it too easy.
It's a different ball game now. I mean, because even look at the shops. I mean, like when we were growing up, man. I mean, like every mechanic had a car. They had a car.
Yeah. That's what
they're
working on at night.
Yeah, I mean, whereas now, and they worked on their cars. They had like the Chevelles. They had the 442. They had the Mustangs. But now the mechanics they. Even if you look at like a Ford mechanic, I mean, they're driving like a Taurus or something like that. They're not really car
people.
Because you know what it is? I think what it is now you just got to change a part. As opposed to like overhauling the engine. You ain't overhauling the engine. They're going to put a new one in there.
Yeah.
Well, and they're more of a technician of reading the codes and working it from the laptop and working it with the wrench. And it's just it's funny you think about this stuff. A modern car, spark plugs, 100,000 miles, coolant, 100,000 miles. Belts, all that stuff. They don't leak. They don't need maintenance. Like what we're talking about.
Yeah,
we ran into that problem. I sell tools. I'm Matco Tools, and they would come out with something like when they went to a 14 millimeter 12-point spark plug on some of the Japanese cars and some of the German cars and so forth, and they would come out and actually like here's one. I got one right here. It's 12.9/16, 14 millimeter. I mean, but they would come out with it and they'd say, well, why aren't you guys selling this? And I'm like, well, you don't change a spark plug unless it has a dead miss for some reason.
Yeah.
But it's 100,000 miles. So on average, we're not going to sell this until 10 years from now when people start replacing.
Until you see PO 302, that plug in number 2 ain't coming out.
And it's funny because literally we've had companies discontinue something because they weren't selling it, and then all of a sudden we're getting, hey, I need that funny, I can't get my spark plug to fix, and you're like, oh yeah, you need this. And they're like, well, where did this come from? We don't make this anymore. We don't have it. And it's like, well, because it's 10 years later. So it's crazy.
And I totally get it. And I know that, just like the aftermarket parts manufacturers, they're trying to, like the Bronco, for example, everybody was trying to get the Bronco ahead of production so that they could scan it and make parts for it. So when the truck was available, they had custom parts for it. And the same with the tools and the repair stuff. And you're right, man. If your company invests all kinds of money into making these specific tools and you just sit there waiting for one of these things to break.
Yeah. They did that with on the Volkswagens. They had it was Ribe. It's like a gear-shaped bolt, and they had it for head bolts. And they came out, and I was like, dude, we're not going to see, unless they have a head gasket problem or, actual head problem, you're not going to see this problem. And sure enough, it was, 10, 15 years later, people are starting to do them. And I know, of course, I've been doing it long enough. I usually buy a handful of that stuff and I'll sit on it. I mean, I'm able to sit on it because they're going to need it. I'm going to be that phone call at 5 o'clock. I spent all day trying to take the spark plug out and I can't get anything to fit in the hole. So it's crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
They designed those cars, like you said.
I never realized that. I mean, working on the stuff and owning stuff and knowing that there's, those age ranges, I've never really thought of it in that regard. I'm glad you said that, Brian. Where you don't need those tools till 10 years, at least down the road. I never. And
it's crazy because I think this, like Kevin was saying, how they want to try to scan the vehicle before it even hits the market, so they've got the aftermarket parts ready and all that stuff. And here, 15 years ago, we didn't have aftermarket parts for a car until it was out for a year or two, right? And I think that's an indicator of the way society is heading, where everybody wants that instant gratification, right? I've got my brand new 2020 Bronco, and I've already got these, tough, what do they call them, rough country fender flares for it, and this, that, and the other, and everyone wants everything they want right now, right? Exactly now.
Interesting you say that, Tyler, because I'm in the bathroom. I'm reading a Carcraft magazine from 1969.
Yeah.
And they're road testing the Z28 that came out in 70 and a half. It was like a pre-production car. And they made some runs in California to get some baseline on it. And then they wanted to do some mods, would put headers on it. So they went to one of the local guys in California. I forget what shop it was. And he said, the parts didn't exist. So they had to make them for the car, and then they broke a drive shaft, they broke a U-joint, and the parts guy didn't know what to give them because it wasn't in the parts book yet. So so they put Chevelle parts in the thing. It's very, very true.
Looking at the magazines, so I've got a big stack of vintage car magazines too. And when you look at stuff like when I was growing up, what did you do if you're gonna order a B&M shifter, right? You wrote a check and you put it in an envelope and you mailed it off to B&M.
Right.
And then you waited and you had no idea when it was going to come.
Right.
Yeah. One day you got this awesome surprise that your part got there.
And you forgot about it.
You forgot it.
Yeah.
And what do we have today? Today, I know the name of the frickin' UPS truck driver and where it is right now.
Yeah.
I think that's too much access.
Right.
And then they send you a picture when it's at your door.
Well, he's in my garage because that Amazon thing that lets them open your garage and drop the stuff, which I don't do, but that's a thing.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I
now.
almost did that. I started thinking, I was like,
now, just within the last 10 years, you would order parts and they would come in a week or two or whatever, and you'd be happy about it. Now, when I'm ordering stuff, I'm looking to see who can get it here the fastest, just out of habit, right? Oh, Amazon can get it here tomorrow. Sweet. Let's just order there.
Almost charge you another $20.
Yeah, that Amazon thing for your garage. I almost bought it because it popped up on like something. I like gadgets. I was like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, wait a minute, what if the UPS guy is a thief?
No, it's not.
Or he calls his cousin or something.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what you find is somebody else, down the street who saw the UPS guy open your door.
Yeah.
He sees in what
Yeah.
I almost bought it because I like gadgets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Find another gadget.
Yeah, I did.
So I think that's one of the things that took a lot of people out by the knees over the past couple of years, with COVID, because we were all so used to getting this stuff next day or 3 days, and then now all of a sudden you can't get anything. So we had to change our whole strategy. If somebody came to us saying, "Hey, I want you to do a 69 Corvette with an LS and a 6-speed," it used to be, "Okay, well, send us the car, we'll look at it and plan it out." And now it's, "Well, we're going to send you an invoice, the motor, the trans, everything you know it's needed before the car's here. Let's just order everything, and we'll call you when we get the parts."
Yeah.
Yep.
Then and then we.
But make sure to send us a deposit first.
Well, yeah,
Yep.
we bill for the parts. You got to pay for them, and then we order them.
Right,
Yep.
right.
Well,
That's the way I do stuff at my shop too, because
yeah,
you never know. Like normally, I can get a camshaft kit here in a couple of days, but these days you might randomly have camshafts back ordered for 3 or 4 weeks. Well, now I've got a car torn apart in my bay for 3 or 4 weeks, and I don't have that kind of real estate.
right.
Yeah, same with us.
We've ended up kind of making a ceremony of when the parts come in, because like a lot of shops, we're building cars for customers in 7 different countries right now. So we got people we're never going to meet in person, and it's a leap of faith to send somebody a bill and they send you, wire you some money halfway around the world, and then cross their fingers that you're not a crook. So when the parts start coming in, we shoot them videos and take pictures and show them, their name on the thing, so that at least they get some of that gratification
That's nice.
Real, and they can relax.
You guys are lucky. You get to put new parts. I get the jobs where I got to repair everything. Like, fix that wiring harness. Like,
we do
power probe.
Damn. Special breed for that.
Or if you have a machine that recreates stuff, like I was talking to Dave Kingdig, and he said he has a wand that he wands over the windows to make the frames, like the window trim.
Yeah.
He said he fought those trims for years. He's like, "Man, we got to do something different, because you spend half the day working on a piece of trim." So now he just wands the whole thing and makes it, puts it on.
Yeah, that technology is pretty insane. And I was talking with Troy about that, and they've got a 5-axis CNC machine, and they can do the same thing, scan it and tweak the design and make push the button and come home over the weekend, and there it's done.
Yeah.
And one thing that I noticed a couple of years ago, it was a Charger built by the Roadster shop, and this car was so unbelievably, I'll use the term perfect, that I had to look at it. Every panel is, precise. Every gap, a digital caliper, you'd have to find a flaw in a gap. And the dash was 3D printed, and everything was machined and everything. And my mind's looking at this thing. This really isn't a 69 Charger anymore. This is a lot of new parts. And it was cool. It was unbelievably cool. But I didn't identify with it, because even a super nice show car, you can tell it's a couple of hands put this together. And there was just something about it. It almost looked too manufactured. Maybe.
Kevin, I'm glad you said that, because I brought this up on my radio show in the past many times. Like, when is a restoration or a muscle car not a restoration or a muscle car? When is it a new creation? When is it something other than what the one next to it that is a muscle car restoration? When it's not that?
Sure.
At what point does it cross that line? And a lot of people have varied opinions on that. I was surprised.
Well, and I was, don't get me wrong, I was in love with this car, and I was in unbelievable envy of this car and that shop being able to do that. But if a say a restored or an original 69 Hemi car pulled up next to it, I'd have to look at the original.
Right. No, I understand 100%. I'm with you 110% on that. And
the other thing that strikes me, and we do 3D printing too in our shop, and a lot of high tech stuff. So I'm not against the technology, but today's design is very refined. And when you buy a phone or a coffee maker or whatever appliance, they've got a look, and they've got a fit, and there's a texture, and there's colors. And when you open the door of a new car, it could be a Ford Explorer or it could be, a Ferrari. You're seeing the same stuff. You're seeing the same type of gauge layouts and the same kind of switches and everything. And the mass-produced ones are plastic, of course, so they don't have quite the quality feel. But I think a lot of times when they transplant that stuff into a 69 Camaro, I love the fact that they could do it and that they were able to make all this stuff. But sometimes I think it's overshadowed because if you don't know what was there, it's like, oh, well, that looks just like my new Explorer inside.
Right.
So,
Terry, case in point, the car you worked on with the late model dash. I mean, that thing was incorporated flawlessly, and it was a beautiful job. And I'm not generally a fan of that swap. So far, I appreciate when it's done right, and some are better than others. But as a whole, I still go to the purist side. But that's just me. So that one was done particularly well.
Very well. You got to also take a look at it like this. Because not everyone can appreciate the imperfections of a muscle car. Not everyone can appreciate the squeaks, the rattles, the panels not being perfectly lined up because they left the factory like this. So not everyone could really appreciate that, and it goes to what Kevin says, especially when they don't know it. For case in point, I got a friend. He bought a brand new, when he graduated from college, he bought a brand new Grand National, 87, the fast one. And he hasn't driven the car since, I would probably say he got married. He probably hasn't driven this car since 90, I'm going to say probably 94, 95. Because he got married, got a job, and it's been sitting in his garage since, and he had kids. He was like, Terry, this car is going to be in my, I'm going to give it to my son, whatever. Son is out of college. He started his own life, not even thinking about this car, doesn't want the car. Now what he's thinking about is he's like, well, I kind of restored the car. I kind of want to fix it up and all that. And I was just like, you got to ask questions. It's like, what do you want to do with the car, Sterling? Because I'm thinking in his mind, he wants to go back to his days when he was in college, cruising this car and all that. But I was just like, you got to remember, this car is since 87, and here it is 2022. So you've been driving Audis, you've been driving BMWs, you've been driving, luxury cars. So you're going to jump back in this car, no matter what you do to it, it's going to be an old car to you.
In those flat Buick seats.
It's going to be an old car. Because like back in 87, you didn't know no better. This was the best you could get.
That's right.
But the car will still ride like 87, but it's going to ride like 87. And he is not that guy that's going to be like, because he's going to, I said, you don't want to drop a lot of money into the car and you're going to hate it. You really don't. I understand you appreciate what it is and all that. But if you want to do it, hey, we could build the car up, whatever, make it as comfortable as possible, make it a nice runner. But I don't want you to be like $20,000, $30,000 into the hole and realize, or either start it and realize, because that's when I'm going to undercut you and say, like, hey, I can only give you $3,000 for the car.
Your buddy's name is Sterling? You said your buddy's name is Sterling?
Sterling, yeah.
He needs this book.
There you go.
There you go. There you go.
This is the Bible for G-bodies.
Yeah.
No, but he likes the allure. He likes the idea. He's more into the idea of the car. And I think that's what most people are. They're into the idea of a 69 Camaro.
Well,
I mean, let's just face it.
Until they, like you said, until they drive it again.
Well, and that's
a 69 Camaro.
Our world, because like you said, our customer typically is driving a nice car, and don't get me wrong, even a baseline Toyota.
You're driving a Sonata, and it's a world apart. Yeah,
it's a world apart. It doesn't leak. It starts every day. You don't know. So these people forget, back in 71 when they had that Firebird, a time has passed, and been able to recreate that experience using today's technology, but it's a big job.
I kind of deviate from that because I grew up with the car. I mean, I grew up in the 70s, so that's where I drove, 50s cars, then 60s cars, and 70s cars, and never had a new car until many, many years later. So to me, that's like ingrained in my DNA. And when I get in it, I mean, my car is now built to drive, but I've gotten in plenty of older cars that I've worked on that still had mushy suspension and drum brakes. And I'm back in the 70s again when I drive. Like, telegraph your turns and your brakes, and like you just know what to do.
Negotiate your turns and stops. Yes.
Yeah, a little bit of windows, big deal.
Well, see, here's the thing. A lot of people want to have that. They thinking it's going to be just like, driving a new car, like where the new car is airtight.
And then,
okay,
right.
what you do? You replace the rubber on like let's say a '69 Camaro. Eventually,
they need to have their checkbook ready.
Eventually, you're going to hear.
They need to have their checkbook ready, and they got to pay to play, and that's all there is to it, because they're not going to be happy. I mean, I've worked on guys' cars who tried sensibly taking a staged approach to a restoration, and they ended. You kind of could tell from the beginning they were going to end up at stage 10. You knew it, but they were trying to talk themselves into being, sane about it. Like, no, dude, you're not going to be sane.
We had that issue with guys, like I said, the Audi 4000 Quattro, which was a killer car, but that was a very mechanical car. So, you stepped down and got into that, and they want that look, but they were like, man, this is like driving a truck. That's like driving an old 911 versus a new 911,
Right.
And those guys that had the newer 911, they would say, oh, I want to get such and such. And you're like, dude, you're not made from that. You're not fit for that, because you get in that. And like I said, it's mechanical driving that car versus luxury. And that was that's always a huge problem. And luckily, I'm a mechanical kind of guy. That's why I like the old school stuff, and I can deal with that. And I think that's harder and harder to find, because like a lot of my customers are, newer kids, and they're driving around this Japanese stuff and the life of luxury.
Yeah.
It's a long way. It's a long way from going back to getting something like that. They all want it. They all say they want it until they get in one. So
I think the lure of the car. I mean, I think the lure of, to me, like, hey, I got a little window leak. Hey, roll all the windows down. That's how I get rid of that problem.
Yeah.
It's just cool. And some of the things that people would hate about the car is what I love about the car. But I will say this. I had my 69 Camaro first, and that was the car that I loved. I wanted a 69 Camaro since I was a little boy. I had to have that car. And after I got it and fixed it up and everything like that, and I still have it, and I still love that car. And I realized that the Chevelle fits me a lot better. I don't know if it's because I'm bigger, but it's the Chevelle is just like a more bigger car. And but I'm never. I always keep my 69 and my Chevelle, but the 6-foot Chevelle is the one I would take.
Hey, fellas, I got to jump ship.
All right, Lewis.
All right, Lewis.
See
Good
you,
job.
Lewis.
I'm also jumping off too.
All right, Tyler.
Hey, Kevin, thanks for showing up, man. And I'd like to schedule you to come on as a special guest to really, promote something that you got going on.
Well, between you and my mom, it's the only two people that think I'm special. Thank you so much.
Kelly,
Likewise.
too.
Likewise.
All right, Lewis. Tyler.
All right, guys. You have a good night.
All right.
Hey, guys.
Go, Lewis.
So what's your daily driver, Kevin?
Oh, that's a great question. And this kind of leads into what we've been talking about. We have a lot of customers that want new car feel in an old car. So I need to know, what current cars, feel like. So today my daily is actually an 07 S550 Mercedes. Yeah, which the way I look at those cars, I've had a couple of them. The first one I had was a 95. So it was the W140 chassis.
Uh-huh.
And people were throwing rocks at me saying, you're a muscle car guy. What are you doing driving this German car? First thing is I was never in a position to buy one new. You were talking about, new cars. I've never owned a new car. My wife has.
I never did either. No.
To this day. But I always thought that if the 70s went a different direction, right? Cadillac, 63, 4, these cars were wonderful. They fit beautifully. They drove wonderfully. They were well built. 68, 97 started to get a little bit loose, in the fit and design. I think it's because they were making more of them. And then what happened? The gas crunch and the Asian invasion and all that kind of stuff. And American car makers got caught with their pants down. So now
then they came out with the Cimarron. Then you got the Cimarron.
Well, that's in the 80s, yeah.
You got the K cars, and you
K
got
cars, the Aries K and the Reliant. Yeah.
If you look at one of those, you look at an Aries K, it's a full-size Chrysler product that's just shrunk down. I mean, they didn't know how to build a small car from the word.
Well, except for the Mitsubishi engine.
Well, the engine was a different story, but it still had the windshield reveal trim and the lights. All that stuff looked.
The interior, the interior dress is very old school.
So
I just worked on one over the summer. I just did some work on one.
There you go. So my thought was that if that never happened, and if American car makers, and I'm going to use Cadillac and maybe Buick, were allowed to progress as they were in the mid-'60s, they would have ended up with these, $150,000 German sedans. That's what a Cadillac would have been.
Yeah.
But they got derailed trying to catch up to the small car world and everything else.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the R&D went away. Whereas Mercedes-Benz said, we don't care.
Well, it was all about fuel economy and carb regulations and local and federal mandates. Yeah, so they had to become jelly beans and cookie cutter cars, and you're right, it killed the creativity. We all say we all grew up. No one, you look at cars, you could tell them by a piece of trim or a taillight or a parking light what that car was.
As soon as you saw the car,
now something goes by, it could be a Toyota, it could be a Mercedes. You don't know.
So by the time the 90s rolled around and the S-Class came out, Benz lost money on those cars from day one because they invested so much into developing the car. They never sold enough to recoup all that. So these cars were crazy. They had double pane glass and they had doors that closed themselves and all these amenities that, seem kind of frivolous. Until you drive one, it's kind of nice.
And the funny thing is too, when you get pulled over and you can tell that the officer pulling you over is not a car guy. The first new car I bought was a 95 Impala Supersport.
Mm-hmm.
And it was brand new. And I was going to a club meeting on the highway. And since we all parked, in the same lot, they were all the same car, save for, a different color or two. I used to bolt on a US 1 Chevy plate on the front. We need 2 tags in my state, New York. So I get pulled over on the highway, and there was a younger cop, and he's looking over the car, and he asked me if I paperwork, and I give it to him, and he tells me, you only have 1 plate. Yeah, I know. The other one's in the trunk. He goes, oh, you have it in the trunk? I said, yeah. Would you like to see it? He says, yeah. So anything to look in your trunk, right? Like, I know I got my car cover in there and the license plate. I'm not smuggling drugs or guns or hookers, so I'm fine. So we open the trunk. I show him the plate. All right, wait here. He goes back to his car, and then he comes back, and he says, what kind of car is this? I said, it's a 95 Chevy Impala. He goes, are you sure this is a Chevy? I'm like, yeah. Did I take the wrong car today? Am I in the Fiat? Oh, my God. I'm like, yeah. He goes back to his car, and he comes back again. He says, I have to ask you again, are you sure this car is... Now, he had my registration. He could run the VIN. I said, what do you think this car is? He goes, looks like a Thunderbird to me. Now, that's not since then, that's not the first time I heard that.
The rear glass I can almost see a little bit.
Yeah, and even sometimes in profile.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, officer, this is a Chevrolet Impala. I said, I don't know what else you have to check, dude, but go have at it. I was like, the car's brand new. But Chevy bow ties everywhere. I'm like, SS, what makes you think this isn't a Chevrolet? So I'm like, okay, we're not dealing with a car guy here.
No. Yeah. It's like when you go to AutoZone, you're not dealing with car people there.
Right. That's true too. Yeah.
No. So I learned a trick where just kind of keeping my thumb on the pulse of cars that I think are cool that are available, and then when the right one comes along. This particular car that I have now, like I said, it's an 07. It looks as clean as it did the day it was built, but it's got 200,000 miles on it, and I paid $9,000 for it. So I'm not the guy trying to buy this to be flashy or for status or anything. But what I do is I show the guys in our shop how the weather strip fits and show them the touch points. This is what our customers used to get in this car, right?
Right.
Feel that steering wheel and feel the leather and all that stuff and how the doors sound when they close. So we got to put that in a 71 Chevelle, and then you got to right.
So
that's the daily. But here I'm in my garage tonight, Terry's got the garage shop. I have the garage. This is my garage.
Garage.
I got the shop down the road. But
Right.
The garage shop. Hey, Kevin, do you still got your Rivy?
yeah, I got a 70 Buick Rivs parked right there, and I got a
Nice.
Ford Galaxy 500 XL convertible right next to me here. So the Galaxy was an interesting story. My dad bought one of these cars new in '62. It was white with a red gut and a 390 or an S code 4-barrel automatic trans, and it was an XL, so it had buckets and the console. And he back in those days, he would buy a new car every 2 years because he could. Then he got married and he couldn't do that anymore.
Couldn't do no more.
Eventually, in the 80s, he's pining for this car. Oh, I never should have sold that car. I never should have sold that. That Ford was the greatest car I ever had. So I said, well, why don't you get another one, man? They're out there. So we ended up finding this car in Southern California. It was born on June 25th of '62, and it was built at the LA plant. And we found it in '93, and my buddy and I flew out to California from Chicago and bought it, drove it home, and it was, here you go. The difference being it's a convertible instead of a hardtop, but it was an XL. It was a non-numbers matching car, and there's a whole long story about this car. But I was working for Hot Rod Magazine at the time, producing their TV show when we kind of got this thing on the road. My dad had a little fender bender with it. It took us a couple of years to put it back together. So I get the bright idea of taking this car on the Hot Rod Power Tour as a camera car, the TV show, because it's convertible. It's big. You could fit a camera guy and everything. And it broke every freaking night. It's bad, right? So
Wow.
It was an unknown quantity because it had been off the road for a couple of years. And we put it back together, and I was. So we left LA, and you was talking about that Impala SS. One of my coworkers had a '96 Impala SS, and we're leaving to go to Flagstaff, Arizona from LA. So we're going to take 40 straight across the desert. And he said, all right, you ready to go? And I said, yeah, we're late. The tour's already gone. We're just trying to catch up. I said, do me a favor. I've not really logged a lot of time in this car. It's an unknown quantity. It's got idiot lights. I don't have gauges. The top's down. It's loud. I can't really know. I don't know how fast I'm going. So do me a favor. Keep it, 60, 65 until I get this thing kind of felt out. Yeah, no problem. So what does he do? He rolls up the windows and hits the AC in the Cruise, and he's doing 100 miles an hour.
Oh, hey, easy. Yeah.
Across the desert. And I pass a truck, and I hear all my rod bearings echoing off the trailer.
Oh,
Oh man.
oh man.
So what do, right? So I call every auto parts store in Flagstaff, and this is 2000, right? 99. And I said, I need rod bearings for a Ford FE motor. It was a 390, and they said, well, what size? I'm like, I don't know. Give me everything you got. I'm gonna buy 10 unders. I'm gonna buy standards. I'm gonna buy everything, and then we'll see what we can do.
And some plastic gauge.
And a bunch of plastic gauge. So
That's a good, yeah.
and some people that were on the tour, like, what's happening? I said, motor's going. Oh, well, we can fix it. I got some parts, and a couple guys that I'd never met before crawl under the car, drop the pan, and they're starting to change bearing shells out.
Yeah.
Camaraderie of car people. It was
Sure.
Wow.
And thankfully, it had standard bearings in it. We put a new set of standards in it, and it was fine. And
Nice.
get back on the road. Well, the motor finally let go by the time we hit St. Louis, and that's how I met my wife.
Oh,
No.
really?
Yeah,
Wow.
he was a friend of a guy who offered to help fix the car. He offered up his local garage, and we show up there, and she was there, and her and I worked on this thing, changing the motor overnight. Bought an engine from a parts store. It was like a Ford 60 school bus motor or something, on the shelf, and put it back in and hit the road, and that's how we met. And
That's great.
So
Oh, that's one awesome story, man. Yeah. That's beautiful.
yeah.
That's a beautiful story. And if you have a chance to meet his wife, these two are a most adorable couple. They're wonderful people. I'm telling you. If you go to SEMA,
very often, so thank you.
if you go to SEMA, if you see him in the show, you got to talk to this guy. This guy's awesome. And they'll give you a
That's
hug,
awesome.
too.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, fellas, I'm going to get going because I got a little boy. He's running around. He got to go to school. So
Yeah, I got to cut out too. But listen, guys, this was a lot of fun. I appreciate you letting me join the party.
Kevin, was a pleasure. Pleasure having you.
Awesome.
Would love to do
We're
it again.
here every Thursday.
And where are you? You're on Facebook, Instagram, and
For
all
sure.
the above?
Yeah. You can find our shop. It's the V8 Speed and Resto shop. You'll find that on Facebook, the easiest way, and then we'll connect that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
I'll look for it.
All right. Well, great, guys. Thanks again.
All right, Kevin. Thanks.
Good weekend.
Thanks,
take care, everyone. Take care.
Take care.
See you
All right,
guys.
Terry.
Keep
I gotta
sharpening up
take
those
care.
drum
Take care.
solos, brother.
Real close, real quick, Terry. Real quick. Man, you gotta stay away from that screwdriver using as a pry bar. We're gonna work on. I'm gonna help you out. Okay?
You gonna help me out?
Yeah.
Hey, that's
So-
old school hot rodding, man.
No.
Old school hot rodding.
I still stand by. He wasn't going to break a screwdriver on any of those welds.
Oh no,
Well,
that's
I know
not
that,
being well
but
done.
going back to the welds, and I don't want to go too far. I'm not an expert, but that's why they put holes in them, because when you're just doing butt lines like that, when you're butting the two metals, you're not going to have a strong weld, and
Well,
you're
if you
going to
put
crack
the metal
that.
together. And what I did was, he tried to do that before. So what I did was, I just got a drill bit and I drilled it like where they should be, like spot welds, and then I welded it in, and then I smoothed it out. But I did put them on. I like extra insurance, so I did do like a seam. But no, those things are, what's it called? I drilled the holes out the right way.
That's a plug
Yeah.
weld.
Plug weld, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, like a plug weld, and when you were doing on that body mount, that's the reason why that body mount, because when they just tacked that on the side, that wasn't strong. That wasn't any strength into that or whatever.
No.
But
Like I said, the guy, he wanted $8,000 for that car. I walked away with that car for $1,500.
yeah.
And I told him the only reason I'm going to give you that much is because of what the car is. But this whole car is going to have to be re-sheet-skinned.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at now, right now.
Well, I'll send you the proper tool for when you're splitting that metal. Okay.
I appreciate
Stay away from that screwdriver.
Nice.
and the claw hammer. And the claw hammer.
Yeah, yeah.
I
mean, do you need? I mean, I got more. Do you need one? I mean, do you want?
I like my claw hammer, man. That thing is just like, it's got a fat head. It's like a 3-pound hammer. That thing is like solid, man. That thing is like, that was my
You look
dad's
like
hammer.
Captain Caveman out there. Stop, please. Okay, no more Captain Caveman.
Oh, no, I'm gonna keep
I
on
want to bring your videos up a notch.
I tell you what, I'll take anything you
goes
got.
a long way.
But the funny thing is, I do have body shop hammers. I do have dollies and everything. But
You do?
just that hammer, it was just like, okay.
Are you're just saving them for the right moment, or you just don't want to show them off?
No, I like that hammer. That hammer, that's like one of my favorite tools.
I gotta say, I don't even have a claw hammer in my garage.
No,
I don't have one in the garage. I have 3 or 4 claw hammers in the house.
I have,
That's
I have
it.
4
Your
down here.
Your built-in seal puller. I worked with a German master of disaster technician when I was back at the dealership, and that guy had a 1/2-inch impact, all the reducers for his sockets, because he only had a 1/2-inch impact, nothing else, and he had a claw hammer. And that was in his toolbox working on the BMWs. And it was downtown outrageous.
Yeah.
I like my claw hammer. I'm keeping my claw hammer. Matter of fact,
Well,
we're going to do
guys-
some videos on the claw hammer.
We'll see that. Well, guys, I got to get going because I'm going to have to go to bed early tonight so I can drive 12 hours tomorrow to get home.
All righty.
All right, Papa Squirrel. You be safe.
Papa Squirrel.
Let's drive later.
All right, later,
Have a
guys.
good trip.
See you, man.
Good night.
So, all right. Well, if you're stuck on the claw hammer, I don't know.
Gotta have the claw. Gotta have
I
the
might
claw.
have to come up and visit you, and we'll walk through the tool truck and show you some proper
Walk the
hammers.
tool truck. Yes, I might be needing some new tools. I think I'll have to get rid of the air now. I think it's time to get rid of the air. I think I gotta go electric. Impact gun. I think I'm gonna need one.
Okay.
They're nice.
They are nice, but
I'm still waiting on mine, so you got to wait behind me.
yeah.
I wait behind you. Yeah, I think I would do that. I do that. Come on up, Mac, old man. Come on up, Brian.
You're
You always
lucky I
go.
like you, Terry. But
I
I'll
mean,
set
you know
you
what?
straight.
There's a room upstairs. You can stay as long as you want. Anyone?
Real, don't say that. You better watch it. You better watch that.
You know, because like what's it called, when you're upstairs sleeping, I'm gonna be like, let's see what you got in this truck.
How well is the kitchen stocked?
My wife hears that. She might pack my bags and give me the toll money to get up that way. You better watch it.
Is the kitchen ready for midnight raids or what?
That's right.
Oh, me and Brian go out and get some more cookies at night.
Stock Oreos.
Needs a little more than that.
I just don't eat cookies. I have big meals.
Yeah.
I mean, cookies are for chumps. I
Yeah,
make sandwiches and a whole meal, man.
Yeah.
Well, no, we'll feed you now. Don't get that wrong. But I mean, like me and Lewis, we went out for cookies. It must have been around maybe 11 o'clock at night. We're just sitting here watching TV. We're just like, yo, man, I ain't got no. You hungry? You want some cookies? We got in the car. We went and got cookies.
That's crazy.
See, Brian, I don't know if you caught it today. John will give you a bunch of crap, but if you saw what he did, he sends out his breakfast stuff. He got the Entenmann donuts and the bagel and the Wawa coffee, like we talked about last week. Okay, cool. And then I said to him, well, what's for lunch? And he says, no, lunch, taking it easy. Gonna have a power bar on my drive back. I'm gonna have a really big dinner at the Hard Rock tonight. And then he sends a picture of these like 3 tacos.
That was me.
That was you?
Yeah, that was my lunch.
I thought that was John's lunch.
No, that was my lunch. I had tacos and egg rolls, man, off the.
No wonder you knew what it was.
Yeah, man, that's like I got three. I got three food trucks that are the ultimate, dude. These guys know how to treat. They know how to treat the tool guy.
Well, then when I said what happened to Justice, because John said he was going to have just a snack. So when I said just what happened to just a snack, you should have told me. Because you know what? Your 2 pictures, they come in really small on the text, and they're the same color, blue circle. So I'm sorry. I thought that was John.
Yeah, no, that was my lunch. I had
okay.
It's a fusion of Vietnamese and Mexican tacos.
Nice.
And boy, I tell you one thing, that's a hell. And then the egg rolls were chicken and shrimp egg rolls with fish oil. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's almost like having sex.
That's good. That was off a food truck, you said, huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
Hey Ray, I wanted to ask you a question. On your GTO, that piece that I was installing, that brace, are they bolted down bushings?
The fender brace?
No. The rear axle brace. It goes over the rear axle. There's like a brace there where bushings go.
My rear axle is 2. I got 2 ears on top of the rear end.
No. Okay, if it's above the rear axle, the body brace is above the rear axle. Yeah.
The rods that triangulate the rear end.
No. This is on the body itself. There's like a brace.
Okay.
It's like a brace right above the rear axle, right? That's the piece that I was welding in my last video. That piece that's like right above
the support. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a shock. That was like the shock mount. Yeah.
It's like above the shock mount. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, are your bushings, are they bolted in, or are they just like a stationary bushing? Because on my 71, it's just like a regular bushing that you don't put a bolt through. It's just like a regular just bushing that just sits there.
No, all the bushings on my car were bolted through.
Oh, bolted in. Okay. Yeah. I think they stopped. I think 68. Those bushings were just like, because along the frame there's a couple bushings that you don't bolt in. They just sit there.
Yeah, all of mine are bolted in.
All right, cool.
An interesting point about bushings on the 95 to 90, the 94 to 96 Impalas, they left out a front bushing on each side, and they did it on purpose. So apparently to like tune the ride of the car.
Really?
So, I don't really know anything more than that. Any other better reason why?
Where would it have gone? Where would these bushings?
I think it's the one very up front, like where the chassis kind of bends in. I think it's that front one.
That's how it is on my 71. On the 71, there's 2 openings. I think those were for the station wagon. I think if you had the station wagon, they put 4 there or something like that. I don't know what it was, but yeah, my 71 has the bushings like right where, like if it's coming off the engine, right where it starts to go out.
Yeah,
like
that's the point.
Where it starts to make that little S.
Now on the Chevelle I restored, I wasn't part of putting the body back on the chassis, so I didn't get to do I couldn't tell you what that car has.
I think it's
I could
either
probably go
4.
look.
The station wagon or either the El Camino had 4 up there instead of 2.
Right.
I forget which one it was.
They left them
Yeah.
out of the Impala.
Yeah, because I think our
Yeah.
66 Chevelle only has the 2 up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to remember.
My car has, I think, my Pontiac has what, like, I got a diagram, like 16 bushings?
14?
There's a lot of them. Let's see. I got one of the many folders of doom. I know I saved that diagram. It could be in another folder, though. I have multiple folders. This one may be receipts, so...
That was cool to see Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guest.
Yeah.
Very cool.
All right, so how many times does he get asked if he's Michael Chiklis? If he's because he sure does look like him, man.
I don't know any bad Kevins. You know, like you got Kevin Ossie, you got Kevin Tetz, cool
Right.
cat. Kevin Bird from Two Guys Garage, really cool guy.
Right.
You know, I don't know any bad. It seems like that's a pass. You name Kevin, you're gonna automatically be cool.
Seems like it.
Yeah. What's up, Justin, man? How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Great weekend. Yeah,
Wow.
I think I sent you that picture on Thursday or whatever. I was like super geeked. I'm like, dude, that's the car.
That's
Who
thing
else
is-
was sending? Who
that thing
else
is
was
nice.
posting from the shop, Justin?
Like from the shop page.
Yeah.
That was me.
Okay, because I was noticing like the pictures were the same pictures. I thought maybe like your boss was like posted this and like, wait, do you know? Does he know
So-
that Justin's doing the same thing?
So he was sharing some of the pictures, yeah. But so I run my page, my Instagram page, and Facebook, and then I also run the shop Instagram and Facebook pages.
Right.
So that's why I'm kind of like trying to work out, make sure that everything isn't, word for word identical. And
Well, no, it can be. In fact, when I do posts, I do like Twitter and Instagram. I literally copy and paste the text from one to the other. Like, why reinvent the wheel?
Yeah.
Here it is. This is out of the GM factory service manual. It's the chassis diagram with all the
And that's for
bushings.
60. That's for what?
This is for. Oh, this probably came with the bushing kit. I'm sorry. Well, this would be for my 64 to 67 Chevelle.
Yeah, they're different.
And there
Yeah,
are 4, 6, 8, 10,
14,
12, 14, 16.
16.
16. Yeah, that's a lot.
16.
Yep.
I think mine was 14. 14 to 12 on the 71.
2 and 3. Top bushing, top washer. Unless it may be 14. This may be, they may have called out a washer here. Yes, 14 looks right. 2 in the front, 3 down the center on each side,
Right.
and 4 in the back. Yeah.
All right, the last 2, okay, the 2 before the end, that would be over the axle, right?
That's the third
it?
from the rear is over the
First
axle.
from the rear, yeah. About the axle. That's the one I was talking about, yeah, because on my 71, they got just regular bushings just sit there. You don't bolt them in. It just sits on that brace. The brace is, a little hole. You put them right in there and just put the body on it. But on this one, there's a bolt that goes through on each side. On the original one, it was chewed up. It was just rotted out. So that's why.
If I could go outside, I saved some of the worst ones, like where the bolts were just like eroded down to like an hourglass. There was like nothing left of them. It was like there was literally nothing. They were in there since 1965.
Yeah.
So I saved a couple because they were just so terrible.
And here you come with an impact gun, just taking them out.
They're just breaking. Yeah, they just broke. Just break.
Yeah,
that's right.
I'm gonna have that fun with my '69 Le Mans when I do that. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
I decided
Always
to keep
is.
them up in the metal nose.
The metal. The metal.
For
nose?
now. For
Okay.
now.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna
It's
get
easier.
the car running, and I'm gonna have it running as a Le Mans. But when I go and paint it, it's gonna be a GTO. It's
Okay.
gonna come out of GTO. It's gonna go into Le Mans, come out of GTO.
That's
You
cool.
know. Because Le Mans is because I'm starting to like that damn nose. I hated it as a kid when I used to see the cars because it makes the car look sad. It looks like the car's crying. But
Well,
now I actually got one. I'm just like, It was not a bad looking nose.
The GTO you could have ordered it with the chrome bumper. You could have ordered it with the chrome nose.
Yes,
So it is correct. Actually, it could be correct.
But you got to look at this. The GTO, the chrome nose was different. The Le Mans nose kind of dips down in the center and comes back up. But the GTO is just straight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So the Le Mans, I mean, they look similar. If you're not in the know, you would think,
right,
okay, cool. But the GTO nose is a bit more tastier.
Yeah.
And on that note, I'm gonna go because I gotta wake up early. What are you doing up?
It's 11 o'clock. You should be in bed.
Yeah, he's running now. He's laughing and running. Yeah, but he's gonna get up tomorrow morning.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah,
whether he likes it or not.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll go outside and get a piece of snow and put on it.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. But fellas,
all right, Terry. Take care. Be safe.
Catch you guys later.
Good to see you, Terry.
Be easy.
Back at you, Justin. Take care.
All right, we're getting a knock on the door.
Knock
I didn't
on
hear
the
the door
door
knocking because my
It's Chassis John.
yeah. There he is.
Hey.
There he is. Chassis John.
Straight off the comedic tour. I was going to tell people that you did a fish tank installation for a famous comedian, and his agent got to talking to you and liked you so much. He said, "Listen, you got to come up on the stage with Howie and do a bit," and that's what you were doing tonight. That's why you couldn't be here.
Kinda, yeah.
I didn't know you were playing
like
football too.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know you were out going out for passes. What the hell's with the jersey?
Brady jersey.
Okay.
Nobody gets dressed up to go to the casino, so I was
I've
like,
never
I think I'll wear my Brady jersey tonight.
Never seen you in anything other than a regular t-shirt.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was good, man.
Okay.
He's freaking dirty.
Is he?
Totally adult humor.
Okay.
Well, they all are when they're not on TV.
Oh yeah. He talked about yeast infections and colonoscopies, and oh my god, I was like, ah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was really, really good.
And that's from
very
the
funny,
germaphobe.
right? Yeah. Well, he talked all about being a germaphobe and the whole 9 yards, and talked about how he got when he was in New York a couple of weeks ago. He got athlete's foot, and he called the doctor, and the doctor told him to, go to the pharmacy and get the stuff. And when he looked at the box, he said it was the same stuff you use when you got jock itch. And he had no idea, and he was like flipping out. So he was pretty funny. Talked about all kinds of stuff. He was good.
A lot of people at the show.
Yeah, it was pretty packed up, but we were like front row center. I was 5 feet away from him the whole time.
Wow,
it was good. Yeah, Barb got some great tickets. It was one of them things where, and we had these tickets for 2 years. He canceled because of COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is like now this is his third show. He just got back to going out on the road.
Right.
So it was awesome. It was really cool. And then he was telling all kinds of jokes and doing all kinds of stuff. He was up there like freaking hour and a half, maybe almost 2 hours. And then he was like, "Well, the show's over." He goes, "But I don't have an ending." He goes, we just wing it. And I'm like, "I got questions." And he was like, "Okay." And I said, "Do you still have the aquarium from the TV show in your studio?" He goes, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do." He goes, "Why do you ask?" I said, "Because we did all the ones here in Florida for the show." He goes, "Oh, get out of here.
Wow.
You're one of those guys." So then he goes, "And what's the name of your company?" Like, Tampa Aquarium Service. And he goes, "Okay, everybody here. Tampa Aquarium Service. Go on the guy's website, crash the web." So we'll see what happens. I might get some work out of it. He was funny.
Well, you might get some stalkers or something. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. Oh my God! Don't ask me why. He's got. I have to see if I can find it. The place went dark, and on came this music with this older guy, and he just kept repeating this phrase, but there was this really solid beat to the music. And I'm like, okay, it's it's the intro music. It's the stuff they play before the guy that warms them up comes on. It played for a solid 20 minutes.
I guess he wasn't ready.
No, he does it on purpose, obviously. And it's a repetitive song. It's got about 10 words in it and a little bit of space and then like 10 words. And then there's like a section where it's just this heavy beat. So that makes you think that it's going to end. And then he starts singing again. And it got to the point where, and all the lights were off. It got to the point where the crowd started screaming, "What the fuck?" It was insane. And then finally, the warm-up guy comes on, and he was like, "I've been listening to that for the last week." He said, "Can't get it out of my head. 3 o'clock in the morning, I got to hear that song." That's how he started.
Wow.
And then anyway, when Howie came out, some drunk idiot all the way in the back yells, "F Joe Biden, F you, Howie." And Howie was like, "Oh my God." The security guards, they grabbed this dude, they yanked him out of his seat, kicked him out of the theater. Because you got to realize this is the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino.
Yeah.
The Indians, they have their own police force there.
Uh-huh.
There's a jail downstairs.
Oh, wow.
This guy was gone within seconds. This dude was out of the place. So Howie, being a California guy, right away he was like, "Oh, F Brady. F Brady." Right away. He flipped the script because he's a California guy.
Yeah.
So we know who he voted for.
Yeah.
But I won't hold him to it because he was hilariously funny.
Okay.
You know, and they did some of his old stuff. He did that kid's voice, Bobby. So he was all over the place. Talked about everything, and he's very natural about it. You know, he's very polished comedian.
He's comfortable.
Yeah, he's really good. He told a story. He said it was a true story. I don't know. These guys, every time they say it's a true story, it's part of the gig. But he said they were in Vegas. He said they were in Vegas, and he doesn't like to go in a casino because he's a germaphobe. But when they go to Vegas, his wife always brings, a couple of friends, and they hit the $10,000 jackpot on the Deal or No Deal slot machine. His wife got him on the phone. He's just like, "Oh, you don't believe this. You got to come down. This is amazing." And he ran down there, and he was hanging out with them. And all of a sudden, this crowd came around, and everybody was snapping photos. And he said, "I think it was one of these things where people, if they win the jackpot, they think Howie shows up to give them a hug."
Oh, wow.
So he was like, I started getting very nervous and I had to get out of there. And he said, I looked at my Apple Watch and he goes, "Uh-oh, somebody just hit the jackpot in Reno. I got to go." So I don't know if that was part of the act or if it
dinner
was
menu for tonight.
True. We had Thanksgiving every day.
Wow.
Is one of the things that's on the menu. We go to, there's a bunch of restaurants in there, but there's this really nice one called The Rise. It's a bakery / restaurant. I mean, they got everything there, cakes and pastries and pies and tarts. And then they have a really great menu, and they make sandwiches like New York deli style stuff, but it's on the menu every day, and it's called Thanksgiving every day. And it's slices of turkey, mashed potatoes, green beans, stuffing, cranberry sauce. So I had that. Barb had it too. She goes, "Yeah, you know what? I'm going to get that too."
Wow.
So I had Thanksgiving turkey with stuffing and mashed potatoes and beans.
All right.
Big old icy cold glass of Coca-Cola. It was awesome.
Gotta have apple pie after that.
We didn't have any dessert.
No,
I was full. Yeah, and I didn't eat lunch, and I was really hungry. My stomach, I was jonesing. I'm like, I gotta eat. So we got in there, and there was a line to get in. Barb says, "Well, I'm going over there to play that machine." So she goes and plays that machine. She goes, "Text me." I get up to the counter there, and I text her, and she's like says, "Turn around," and I look, and I'm looking, and then she's waving. And she's like, I'll be here till we're ready to go in, because I had to wait for the table after they got us at the head of the line. And so that was about a 5 or 6 minute wait. So she kept turning around and looking, and I waved her on because it was time to sit down. And she came back. She punched out a ticket, and she won like $450 on a $20 insert in the machine.
Nice.
On a penny slot.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was cool. And then she cashed out, and we ate, and then we played. I put $20 in, and it was gone in like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
She keeps winning and winning and winning. I think she spent like $30 or maybe $40, but she brought home like $600.
Nice.
Can't beat that.
Holy jeez. Yeah, she does good every time she goes. I don't know. She's like smells the right machine for some reason. I can never do that. So that was it.
Wow.
So we got home, and I'm like, oh, I still got some time to go talk to the boys. And she's like, I'm going to bed.
Yeah. See ya.
Yeah.
Don't wake me up when you come in.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the end of that story. So, oh my God, Justin, do you guys because this was new to me. Do you guys buy the 9-inch center sections, the steel 9-inch center sections from Strange?
I think we've done a few of them. We do a lot of like quick performance as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've done a few of the Strange ones too.
Mine came in like 2 days ago. They called me up and mine came in. They sent my axles and they sent the wrong bearings. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, I got to get this car on the ground. They sent the wheel bearings, and I told my guy specifically, I'm like, I do not want these street bearings. You've seen them if you've done it. It's a roller bearing, and then there's like a cap that's got the seal, and the bearing is undercut, and it goes together.
Yep.
And then you put the bracket on for the disc brake caliper. And I've had a lot of people through the years, because they didn't have these when I was still building the cars. But I've had a lot of people call me and they're like, I put this thing together, and when I go to put the caliper bracket on, it's spaced away from the housing end. And I'm like, it's because the way the seal is set up. I said, I don't know what to tell you on that one. Get rid of those bearings. Go to the sealed race bearings. You never have that problem with the O-ring, and you're done. So I specifically ordered them. The guy put the note in. He even called Strange, and he told the Strange guy, this is what he wants. He wants the race the race bearings. And they screwed up. So there's like a spacer they have to put on the axle first to get the bearing where it needs to be.
Right.
And that is the wrong size spacer if you're using the race bearing, because they're different widths. So they're waiting for the bearings to show up, and then they're going to knock the spacer off for me, and then I can put everything back together again. But the center section came, and the guy wheeled it out in a cart, and I went to pick it up to put it in the truck, and I almost fell over forward.
They're not light.
Literally, I'm going to go get the bathroom scale and put this thing on it. For all these years, and even both of my cars, both cars had aluminum center sections with a spool. And I'm like, okay, the thing weighs, I guess, about 38 pounds, maybe 40 pounds, whatever. You can maneuver them. You could pick it up, you could lay underneath the car, and you could get the thing on and stick it in. You ain't doing that with this. This one it's a strange 9-inch case with a who did I say makes that posi? I put it into
it's Eaton.
text.
Eaton True Track.
It's got the Eaton True Track posi, which is the one with the worm gears.
Yeah.
Right.
And that thing is all steel. And then you've got the 350 ring and pinion that I had them put in it. And it's got the billet steel caps on the back.
Yep, 80 pounds.
Yeah, at least. I'm like, Jesus Christ. When I do it in this car, I'm going to have to put it on the floor jack and jack it up. But what I'm going to have to do is, because I've run through this problem before. you go to put the center section on, and some of the studs on the housing, they're not lined up perfectly, and it don't want to go in.
You just fight it. They can be tough.
So the only way to really do it is to go to lay it on before you do the gasket deal and see which one's got to go where. And then I use a piece of heavy wall tubing, and I put it over the stud and just give it a little bit of a tweak. If you go too far, you snap the stud, you know?
Right.
So I'll do that on the bench, so at least I know, because that's not something I want to try to do under the car. It's like ridiculous.
Sitting there bench pressing this thing. Not fun.
Well, probably what'll happen is after I take the rear end to the powder coater, I'll do full assembly on the bench, which is what I did with the last car. I stuck the center section in, I put the axles in, I did the brake lines, hooked everything up, and then muscled the housing down, and then put it on the floor jack and jacked it up into the car and hooked up the suspension.
Yeah, that's what we did on that Camaro, because they had the same deal.
Yeah.
Just assemble it, set it down.
That and the fact that I'm older.
You got an engine crane? You got an engine puller?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, there you go. That's how you get it up and down and put it around, move it around.
Yeah. I got a. It's all folded up. I got a really nice one. 2 ton.
That. Or you have you go get, or you run by Home Depot and pick up a moving platform dolly.
I have a bunch of those. I have, and I got your normal large ones, and then at Northern Tool, I got these small ones, which are awesome. They're like, I think they're about 16 inches by like maybe 12 or 13 inches. Small furniture dollies with the carpet on them, and they're great for moving small stuff around. They're awesome.
So you just put that down, and then you have your platform and slide it right underneath. Yeah. One-man operation, Johnny boy.
Oh, I know. I'm the only man that can do it. I got to do what I got to do.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, holy shit! What the hell did you sell me? The guy goes, streetcar stuff, pal. You wanted it. Could have sold you the aluminum one with a spool. I'm like, no, not happening. That was the
and the gear change was a good idea too.
Yeah. That was, I don't know. I had buyer's remorse, I think, like about a minute after I walked out of there. And I'm like, why am I doing that? And then I called them up. Like, I need more highway gear than what I already ordered. Because you know why? It hurt me. I mean, it literally, inside, it tore me up to even mention anything in the threes. Right? It just bothered the shit out of me.
It's not even right.
Well, because the original 70 came with 331s. With that, what were those tires? Maybe 26 and a half inches tall. What was a G70?
G70 is pretty short. Yeah,
that car came with G70s.
Yeah.
So 26, maybe 27,
At the most, yeah.
Loaded radius 26 and a half or something, with a 331 posi. And with the 4-speed. And I tell you what, it was like, I can remember the feeling like it was yesterday when I took the car and dropped it off in Kings Park at Mighty Motors.
Oh,
I had my buddy Artie. I'm like, put 411s in this thing for me. And he was like, yeah, no problem. Just leave it here for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. So he pulled the posi out, did the 411 gear change. I think I used Zoom gears back then.
Yeah.
He put it all together, called me up on the phone, come pick it up.
Zooms were purple. Their logo was purple, yeah.
Yeah. I grabbed my friend. He drove me back to Kings Park. The feeling when I first let out the clutch and the car just moved. Yeah. You didn't have to ride the clutch,
Right.
It just moved. And I'm like, oh my God. And then right away, it went up to where you had to shift right away. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is what gears feel like,
Yeah.
So my whole life has been like 400 and higher in terms of numbers based on the horsepower of the car. I never I never owned or drove anything that was a 3 Series gear, you know. But like I got friends that have like these pro mods and they run like a 300 gear.
Right.
Because the more horsepower you make, the less gear you need.
Sure.
You know. So this was a step back. It was like I was trembling, going, yeah, give me a 373, you know. And then I'm like, and then I said, nah. You know, once I ran a calculator when I got home, and I'm like, I don't want to spin this thing at almost 3,000. So I called him back, and I'm like, put a 350 in it. He's like, yeah, no problem.
See, I was kind of I was thinking about going the other way. I have 373s in my car, but you know, in fifth gear, unless I'm doing 70 and above, I'm not turning fast enough. I was going to swap to a 411.
You can get away with it with a 5-speed, but not when you got a 3-speed automatic.
No, and already the first 4 gears. I mean, I really drive the thing like a 3-speed, 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. I can cruise in third around town on Sunrise Highway and all. And then fourth is a little deep even, and fifth is like it's when I'm going down to visit Brian for bagels. Sticking fifth down.
That was like when I bought my my GT. I bought an '89 GT Mustang, and we went up to Pennsylvania to get it. My dad worked with this guy, or went to school with him, that owned a Ford dealership. And I get up there, and of course, I've been used to driving a 4-speed, and the other my 66 was a 4-speed, and I had anything from 287s to 513s. It just depends on what I blew up at the time, for rear ends. And so I get up there and I get in the car, and of course the guy's like, to make these cars run, you just got to. I said, don't worry, I'm gonna beat the shit out of it. And man, I left the dealership sideways, just banging gears going down the road, And I was not easy with that car. I mean, I drove that car hard the whole, and so of course the optional rear end for that with the 5-speed was a 308. That was the optional rear, or stock optional rear for that. And man, I am cruising coming back from Pennsylvania. And I said, and this thing, I mean, I'm like hitting the gas and this thing's pulling out. And I'm like, man, this thing is really, really got some gear in it. And I kept going until I got about all the way down. I mean, I was almost home and realized I still had 5th gear. Wow. I was driving at like a 4-speed.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
And it was funny because I get down here on 29, and I'm like, this thing is screaming all the way home. I broke this thing in, and I get down and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, it's a 5-speed, and it's like, and that was it. I was like, oh, this is no fun.
It just loses everything if you're not at the right range.
Oh, cruising along, that thing was just screaming, and I just had to laugh.
You can tear a motor apart if you do that.
It was built for.
Dude, I have seen guys with 5 or 6 speeds. They drop them into overdrive at the wrong mile an hour, and it just lugs the crankshaft right out of the motor.
Yeah, I didn't have that problem, but I noticed that on the highway, my water temperature was going up, and I'm like, huh? Like, I know the cooling system everything is new, and what it was, I determined the motor wasn't turning fast enough. Yeah. It was turning too slow, and the water pump was running too slow. So I put that flow cooler water pump in, and that, like I said, I did the test. I went out to Captree in 4th gear and looked at the RPM and speed, and did the same speed coming back, but in 5th, and I had different numbers on the water temperature. I'm like, okay, I got to make this pump turn faster, or the engine's got to turn faster. So that's what I was thinking about the gears. I did the flow cooler pump, and that worked it out.
On the black car, I don't know where I found them, but they were GM pulleys, but they were larger than normal.
There are some, there were some made like that, yes.
Right? I think it was like some type of performance option back in like the 60s or something like that, or the 70s.
It was either, or they could have been police.
But they were bigger than normal, so it slowed the RPMs down.
Yeah.
And I bought an aftermarket big pulley for the alternator, big deep groove,
They used
which slowed the alternator down.
Right.
And luckily, I had enough, you know, in the motor because I had like 543 gears, so the motor was always revving, so everything worked out good. But I got rid of. I mean, I had a stock fan, then I went to a fiberglass flex fan, then I went to a stainless steel flex fan, and then I almost cut my thumb off.
Yeah.
We were in my garage, and I was trying to slide a steel braided hose, the bypass hose, over the nipple on the water pump. And then I was going to use, remember, I guess they still make them. It's an anodized nut with a worm gear clamp inside to hide it. And I'm sliding this thing on, and I slip, and this part of my thumb, I cut it to the bone.
Yeah.
My friend wraps me up in a towel, takes me to the hospital, inside stitches, outside stitches. I couldn't use my thumb for like 4 months. It was stiff. It wouldn't move. I still have a scar. You can barely see it right there.
Those fans are nasty.
I got rid of the fan right away, and I went to the junkyard, and I bought from a Corvette an electric. They had like a 16-inch electric fan in the.
That's nice.
In the late 80s. What was that? A C4, I think.
Yeah.
Had this big giant electric fan on the radiator, because those are the radiators that like laid down almost.
They lay on an angle, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I built an aluminum fan shroud to fit that fan. As a matter of fact, that fan shroud was still on the copper brass radiator when I got the car back. I kept that.
Cool.
I kept the radiator and a fan shroud and the fan, the whole thing together, when I hang it on the wall in the shop.
Heck yeah.
And temperature-wise, the car was great, even in the summer. But when I would pull up to a traffic light, the car would get so cold because the engine, the speed of the fan never changed. It was just constant on full. So at a stoplight, you were flowing almost no water through the system, and it was overcooling, and you would literally see the temperature gauge go down, and the thermostat would like slam shut and then open, and you would see the temperature doing this.
Yeah.
Because it would just slam shut, and then it would heat up and open, and the water that was coming out of the radiator was freaking crazy cold going back in the motor, which thermally I don't think that was good for the motor anyway.
No, really, it isn't.
But what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And the car ran at like 100 and went on the highway like 185, 190.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not going to complain about that.
Yeah, that's where I'm at now, about 190. But yeah, I'm using. I picked up like I think it's a 6. I don't think it's a 7-blade. It's just like a 6-blade GM clutch fan.
Yeah.
I might have been out of an El Camino or something, late El Camino, and I have that on there.
I blew one of those metal flex fans off. I blew it apart.
Wow. Yeah.
I was screaming.
The fiberglass ones used to do that.
Yeah, I had I'd put that Lanati cam. I had that Lanati ground, and that was 10.5 RPM, and the RPM on the metal fan was only like 8.2 or something. And I'd scream it along, and one day I was leaving high school, and I nailed it into third gear, and it shattered. The fan blew, and in the road, it was a hot summer day, but it went down stuck in the road. One of the blades stuck into the road and tore the inside. I was lucky it didn't go through, but I had a fiberglass hood, and it tore all the inside of the hood apart. Oh, it was a fucking mess, dude.
Yeah.
They're dangerous. Those fans always scared me.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
And they're noisy.
Went back and it was I think it was only a 4-blade fan that I went back to the original fan and never had a problem. I never had a problem, but when that thing was coming apart, it sounded like you had a blower or something. They flexed out, and man, that was a hell of a mess.
It's like you'd be working under the hood, and you'd rev the engine, you could see it flatten out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would just flatten out and make that noise. Yeah.
Do they still make those?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do they?
I had put
I think so.
Mine was from Flexolite.
Flexolite.
Yep, Flexolite,
Yeah.
I had put a
I got one somewhere.
Ford. I think it was a
Right over
Fairlane.
here.
No, it's not.
I put a
close.
Fairlane.
Kinda
I put a
buried
Fairlane radiator in mine. It was bigger because those Mustang ones were just a little dinky,
Yes.
and I put a Fairlane.
Surprised it fit.
Did you have to
Yeah.
open up the radiator support to
Because the
get?
core support is totally
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, I opened it up a little bit, and I had opened, and it sat back, and then we had put like put some metal over so they had the airflow going in, and it got to the same point like on yours, John. You could, especially like a cold morning or whatever. You could the thermostat. I mean, you could just my gauge was, it was like it just didn't come up. It moved all over the place, dude. It was crazy.
Yeah, my thermostat used to walk everywhere when I was like going slow, cruising or idling.
And I had
Up and down, up and down.
I took. They later made them. I found them, but I had actually taken the thermostat and busted it out. So I just had a smaller hole to slow the water down going through. They make those.
Moroso sells those wafers.
Yeah, Moroso plates.
Yeah.
And that's what we took the center section of the thermostat out on mine, and I didn't. And it was really crazy because at one point I had busted the spring in the oil pressure. I mean, in the oil pump. So all my gauges moved around.
All right.
You think I had like a bad ground or something? These are all mechanical gauges, but I mean, my water temperature's all over, and of course, every time I give it gas, more oil and down and up, and it was crazy.
You want to talk about the defining water temperature gauge from the 70s?
That's it.
Oh, that's a
That is
sun
awesome.
gauge.
It's a sun gauge.
Yeah. I missed. Somebody makes those sun tacks.
This is the vacuum gauge.
Yeah, I think you're right.
that.
Somebody does.
Yeah, somebody's making the tacks that look exactly like sun.
Well, yeah, the Sun, and then I got a separate vacuum gauge. The Sun Pro, there's the Sun Pro line too, but the Sun Super Tac 2, they may be remaking that. I think I have 3 of those tacks.
Those tacks were the bomb.
Yeah,
All of
you know what? And now when
put 3 of them out on the hood and the tack up on the dashboard.
I kicked myself. I had some Stewart. I had the Stewart Warner with the round glass.
Oh yeah,
Stewart Warners, man, I tell you, dude,
That's
I
what
kicked
I had.
myself
I had
in the ass.
Stewart Warners.
I gave all that. I mean, all that stuff, man.
I got some Stewart Warner stuff, but now now rebuilding the car, I said, you know what? I'm not going to put a tack on the steering column. Just not going to do it. I said, first of all, I don't need a gauge to tell me when to shift. I know when to shift.
Yeah.
I never look at the damn thing anyway. If I look at it, I want to see what the idle is. That's about it. Yeah. So I went and had a dash tack rebuilt. So put it in the dash.
It's a good way to go.
That's what I'm doing. I'm putting the GPS speedo and the matching tachometer in the dashboard like a Trans Am.
Right.
And then the smaller 2 1/16 gauges, 4 of them. 2 would be where gauges were, 2 would be where stock air conditioning vents are.
Okay.
So I got the 4. And then I'm going to add an air conditioning vent to the bottom of the dashboard where like the 8-track would be. Because there's one that comes out under the steering column.
Right.
You've got one all the way on the far end, and then on the passenger side, one all the way on the far end. But there would normally be 2 in the dashboard above the cigarette lighter.
Right. Right.
But I'm going to have a custom gauge panel. So I want to put the console back in the car. That's the plan, is to put a console back in the car. So that tray, I can get an air conditioning vent set that'll fit under the dashboard, under the ashtray. I can't believe the thing's actually got an ashtray. And still be able to utilize the tray.
Right.
And then I've been looking around at a lot of the sites that I belong to on Facebook. I see guys that have cut their radio section out and put in, I don't know if it's a single or a double DIN chassis. You can fit something in there. So you can get a modern type of radio, you know?
Right.
So that's the plan. Should be pretty good.
Nice.
But
Yeah.
yes, those fans to this day scare me.
As they should. They were scary back in the day, and they're scary.
Yeah.
And you know, they did fly apart.
Yep. And
Five
the white
West ones too.
the
They were
white
just
car was noisy because it had that fan for a while, and it always had a Milodon 3-gear gear drive.
oh,
for
okay, yeah,
cam.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And those were straight cut gears.
Yeah.
So it sounded like there was a blower under the hood.
Yep.
Right.
I ran I had that for a short time, and then I went back to I don't know what happened, but then I put a dual chain back on.
Yeah.
I love
Well,
I love the gear driven.
When I was writing my wish list of things to go get to recreate that car, and that was one of the things that I put on my list. And when I went on like Summit and saw that they now cost like $700,
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I was like,
I don't know.
are you
I don't know
kidding
why.
me?
Yeah.
I'm like, how? We're talking about something that hasn't changed in probably 50 years.
And it's just metal, just gears.
It's a cast aluminum cover. They're sand casting those covers, right? And then you've got, I don't know what alloy steel gears are. They got to be pretty good, but
Yeah.
You're going to tell me that stuff has changed
Well,
to
you
the
gotta
point
redefine-
where
you
they've
got-
chucked the gears that they used to use in favor of something that's an even better gear at this point in time.
Well, you got to
And
read because they had noisy and quiet.
right. They had
two
noisy and
different
quiet.
ones.
I had the noisy one.
Right, but the quiet ones were a lot more. I'm sorry, when
really?
you look, yeah, the quiet ones were more, and then you had the noisy, and they weren't as.
I'll have
as
to go back and
priced.
check. I mean, it's something
But-
that I really want to put on the motor because I just like it,
Yeah,
you know. But I was like, whoa,
You better
that's
see
a
if
lot
your
of
wife
bull-
likes
that's a
it.
lot of money. Well, she don't care. Trust
Yeah.
me, I can. Whatever I do, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. Yeah, there's
yeah. Good luck.
no. Swear to God, she doesn't know enough about that stuff. So
Yeah. Until let me give her a phone call. I'll help you out, Johnny. Don't worry.
there you go. No, she wouldn't know the difference. She would not know. What's that noise? It's the gear drive for the camshaft. Okay. You know. It's a performance car. It's supposed to sound like that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the other one doesn't sound like that.
I can't remember
The other one, no,
why.
the other one you can't hear it because it's open headers.
Okay.
She heard the other one when it came back from Pennsylvania, and she was like, "Oh, it's like being back at National Speedway."
Yeah.
She goes, "What's that smell?" I go, "Cam 2 gas." Oh yeah, okay, I got it. So yeah, it won't be quiet. None of them will be quiet. You're waking up the neighborhood.
That's the way to
If
do
we
it.
don't get nuked before I get them done.
Yeah, right. So Justin, now that Autorama's done, what's on the slate for the shop?
Dude, you hanging out with the man.
Oh man, he's so cool.
Totally.
So cool.
I've met him a few times. He's pretty normal. You know? And he's got a wealth of knowledge.
He was
that
He's
you
a
were hanging out with?
magnificent
Chip
artist
Foose.
and
Oh, Chip.
designer. Yeah.
He
His
was-
father was awesome too.
He was up there signing autographs for 6 hours, no break,
Wow.
just up there, and then he hopped on a plane and went to Salt Lake and did it again.
Wow.
Really?
I mean, super cool dude.
Oh, he's from
Super
Salt
cool.
Lake too?
Well, he had a second Autorama
Oh.
the next
okay.
day,
Wow.
so that's pretty crazy. But yeah,
Hey,
he's
let me
cool,
tell you
man.
something. He got paid, so let's face some facts. When you're those guys, you get paid to show up.
Yeah.
Nobody pays me to go anywhere.
But no, we got a lot. Obviously, we're still busy now that our round is done. Been assembling on a '66 Chevelle. I actually just got my exhaust back from that Impala, so I'll probably be putting that on tomorrow. It's all back from ceramic coat. So.
Oh, you know what I saw, and it's going to be in my history for YouTube. Somebody had posted something. It was a TikTok video, but then somebody else copied it and put it up on. Pretty sure they put it on YouTube, but I'll find it. A guy that's a fabricator. He made a jig that allows you to trace a perfect cut line on a radius pipe.
Nice.
So what he did was he took. Did you see that?
I did.
He took a protractor, one of those flat with 180 degree deal, put it on a plate and attached it, put a stud coming up, and then he made like a flag. Think of a flag. And he cut a half circle U based on the radius of the pipe. He said, and for every radius, you make a different flag. And then what you do is you drop this flag down. You put the pipe down. You drop this rotatable flag over the stud, and you move it to whatever angle you want to cut the pipe. So say you want to cut it at 22.5. You move this thing to 22.5, and you take your Sharpie and you go, just trace it. And then if you're running a 4-inch diameter or 3.5 diameter, you're going to have to make a flag that's got that half circle in different spots. But you can just move it around the tube and make your pie cuts. And I'm like, oh my God. And the dude's a fabricator. He goes, this is for my fabricator friends.
Sweet. I saw that and I saved it and I know what I'm building next.
Super sweet. Yeah. That would really help with headers.
It would.
And exhaust.
I mean, everything really. Because
you get underneath there and you're like, you're trying to figure out what you got to do, and you got a pipe that's like a piece of a radius, and you're like laying it in there, and then you're like, you put your magic marks on it, or you're doing masking tape, and it's never straight. You go to cut it in a bandsaw, and then when you put it together, you find out you got a gap on the bottom somewhere.
Yeah, it's super tough.
Smart tool.
Heck yeah, it was.
That's it.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I'm like, that would be easy to build.
Very easy.
We're gonna build a handful of those.
Yeah. Necessity is the mother of invention. So I was like, whoa, check this out. Why didn't I think of that? Now what you need to do is you need to figure out a way. That piece of metal that's got the half circle, figure out a way to attach that to the arm, maybe with 2 set screws, and mark it, and then take that piece and allow it to slide. So you make one.
Oh yeah, adjustable.
And you adjust it. You get like 5 different radius U bends. You lay them down.
And you could adjust it.
You put that thing and you mark it. There you go. And now you tighten up the set screw or thumb screws. And then when you go to a different radius, you already got it marked. You move it. It's a done deal. So one tool does all of those radiuses. Yeah.
I mean, you could have that flag would be basically 2 pieces, one piece of tube and another.
Yeah. Slide it in, slide it out.
Nice.
Yeah. Very, very nice. I was like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, I saw that. Perfect.
You put a blade on the end, you can cut your bagels with it.
Yeah.
Multi-purpose.
That bagel I had today was delicious.
You hit it right on the head, because that's what I found in North Carolina. The bagel looked good, and my wife and I were both eating it, and like we're looking at each other.
You know what it is? Because they're baked. They're not water baked
it's just like
real New York
a little
bagel.
too doughy. And I said, if they bake this more, like cook it longer and make it a little more well done. Like, what's the big deal?
It's a whole different process, because when you get out of a real. We have a guy. I got a guy about 8-10 miles from me in Brandon that actually is from Queens.
Uh-huh.
And he brought the water vats down, and he makes his bagels in water like all the other Jewish bagel places in New York.
Yeah.
And he's the only guy around that does that. And he makes a set amount of bagels. He's got maybe 10 different flavors. And he just makes a set amount. And when he's out, he closes the store.
Really?
Done.
This is it.
Yep.
That's what you get.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
and
he's got everything. He's got pumpernickel. He's got.
So how does that go over with the? How's that go over with the locals though?
They love it because they
So
never
then
had.
why isn't
anything
everybody
like that.
doing it?
I don't know.
It's not. I mean, it's not
just
that.
like diners. We don't have diners.
I know. I'm saying it's not expensive equipment. It's not like it's unobtainium by the 3-axis, mill or something.
Yeah, yeah. No.
It's a freaking water vat.
We got a guy from New York that came down and he opened up a place in Brandon called the New York Diner. Built the place up. Looks like a New York diner. It's a total flop. Lasted 2 years. He sold it.
Amazing.
Yep.
With all the people down there from here.
The problem, it's not an issue on the East Coast. Because on the East Coast, you will find that stuff.
Uh-huh.
East Coast is people from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut.
I know. See, it says East Coast right on our clothes.
Eastern
It's
Pennsylvania,
even stenciled on what we wear.
Exactly. Those people
tattoo
flock.
underneath it.
They flock to the East Coast of Florida.
Yeah.
But you got to go like as far down. They're like in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale, that area.
What about Sarasota?
Sarasota's West Coast.
Yeah, I know.
Sarasota's like Tampa. The people that live mainly on the West Coast are people from the Midwest.
See, Martin
Lots
Shore
and lots
is
of
down
people
there.
from Ohio. Yeah, well, there's a bunch of us that are there.
Yeah, and Joel Rosen too is down there.
Joel
You know,
Rosen,
the
exactly.
New York Jews.
Yeah, there's a bunch of us that
Yeah.
are there, but for the most part, everybody seems to be from Indy, Ohio, Western Pennsylvania,
Michigan.
Michigan. They all seem to go to the West Coast. Don't ask me why, but that's where they flock to.
So, Justin, what are the food trends like where you are? I mean, we're always talking about what it's like by us. What about by you?
Nothing that stands out like that. We do have a lot of burger places. Everybody does burgers.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, like a lot of good bar burgers. We actually went to a couple. Honestly, our whole week down in Detroit, I don't think we had a bad meal.
Yeah.
And, some just phenomenal bar burgers.
That's nothing
just-
wrong with
just
that.
Stacked. Went to a place that did some wings.
Ooh.
There's kind of like you're talking about with the bagels there. They didn't give you options. It wasn't 10 different flavors of wings. It was one.
Okay.
And this is what you're getting. They give it to you, and it's the best wings I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
I mean, they're voted like best wings in Michigan like 5 years in a row or something like that.
Okay. Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
Reds, huh?
There you go.
So that's the thing. They know what they got and they know what works, and that's just what they
Yeah.
do. That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, are there ethnic food trends up by you? Is there like the area known for anything?
Not really.
specific? No.
Not really up where we're at. But we just got a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Well, what's the ethnic mix?
The demographic, yeah. What's the indigenous people of Michigan?
Really not sure. Again, it just got a lot of everything.
You're
Really,
a bunch of mutts.
probably. At least my family is.
That's
That
talking
much.
about much New York. I mean, it's
Yeah, New
Christ,
York. I mean, New York's got everything, but when
Yeah.
when people think of New York, they right away think of people that are Jewish, people that
Yeah.
are Italian.
Of course.
That's New York.
Right.
Right.
Well,
Right.
Pennsylvania is what?
That's
Dutch.
like Middle America and Amish.
Middle America, yeah, Amish.
We have a handful of those up here.
Yeah.
Do you have diners like we had up in New York?
Not really.
See,
Oh my
Pennsylvania's
God.
got some really good diners. Pennsylvania, New Jersey,
Oh yeah, yeah.
they got some
yeah.
phenomenal diners.
We've got
24-hour a day.
We've got a couple little diner kind of almost tourist attraction deals. Like there's a really good one up north of the bridge.
You guys
It's,
got
like,
Denny's.
really-
Denny's
Yeah.
dead then.
But we have a really good little diner up north of the bridge that does the best burger you're ever gonna have.
Yeah.
Super cool. Drive in, they bring you stuff out on roller skates. Like it's
That's
a
cool.
really kind of cool diner.
You need to take a trip and go visit Ray before he moves.
I do.
Yeah.
And he'll put you on the radio, but he'll take you out to eat, and you'll really get a taste, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, of what New York is all about.
Anytime, day or night.
You
You
walk
can get
into a
anything
diner
anytime, day or night.
24 hours a day. The menu's this thick.
Yeah.
I
go to the diner now, and I can
could
get
be
eggs.
midnight. You say, "Yeah, I want eggs. Two over each, scrambled. Give me bacon, sausage, ham on the side. The whole deal."
Right.
We have 2 customers.
You could go order a hamburger, or you could sit down like I did today, and you can have a full turkey dinner.
Yeah, go get a fillet.
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
We have 2 customers out on Long Island, so I'm sure I could come up with an excuse.
Do you?
There you go.
2 of them.
Do you know where they're from?
Anybody I know, maybe?
The one guy, his name is Chris Gaynor. Him and his kids actually own a detail
with
shop.
A guy named Gaynor. Gaynor was how he spelled his last name.
Yep.
His name was Phil. It wasn't Chris. Maybe it's his son.
Kind of car.
We just built him a 41 Willys gasser.
Nice.
Black 392 Hemi, set up from Big L's. It's like super, just like.
Do you know what town he's from?
Where is he from? Gosh, I can't remember. I can tell you here in a minute.
Cool. Be funny if we wound up knowing the guy, but
yeah, right.
Realize
you might.
It was him.
Like I said, you very well might.
There's only like 8 million people on Long Island, so
yeah.
Chances are know one of them.
Car culture, though.
Yeah.
Westbury.
Oh, Westbury.
Oh,
That's
okay.
right that's by me. That's just north of me.
Out by him.
Just north of me. Who's the other guy?
He's the one I actually don't know because we built him a car before I started. Vendetto, I think is his name. Another Willys.
Okay.
Another Italian.
Yeah, right.
We're building him another car coming up. It's gonna be pretty cool. Should debut at Autorama next year if we can get the parts.
That's cool that you got guys coming to you for Autorama builds.
Yeah.
That's some serious coin.
Oh yeah.
You don't just
cool.
build something and throw it in there,
No.
Who posted that picture of that '69 Trans Am?
That was me. The one in the page. The
car's beautiful.
Yeah, that's one we were talking about Trans Ams and those nose pieces.
I love those.
Yeah.
White
John,
with the blue stripes.
You did
Beautiful
miss
car.
the one show you shouldn't have missed because we had Kevin on, and we were talking all about the noses, the Firebird noses, and Justin was adding in, the complexities of it. And I was like, this is Chassis John right here. That's what he's building. And he was saying the one guy's taking a 71 and geez, he's putting an 85 back on it. I'm like, oh shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like.
Why would you put an 85 back on a 71?
Why would you put an 81 back on a 70?
Well, come to think of it, there's a guy.
On. I thought he said 81.
I thought he said 85.
I thought he said 81.
Well, 81 is still second gen, so that's as easy as what I did. But
I thought he said it was 81.
There's a guy on Facebook in Ruined Camaros and Firebirds. It's like a private little group who put a third gen hatch on the back of like a 75 Firebird.
That's gotta look wrong. Yeah, it's gotta look weird.
I don't know how he did it. It looks like it came from GM. I'm like, whoa.
Good body.
Oversized Z28. I mean, Datsun 260Z
modified the
or whatever.
B pillar.
Yeah.
To make that work, he rolled in the top of the quarter panels. I don't know how the guy did it, but he did it, and I'm like, holy shit, and it works.
We had a guy stop by our booth at Autorama that was talking. He saw the Cougar, and so he was talking to us about that. And I guess he's got one he's going to put a Torino roof on.
Wow.
Like a 70s Torino fastback roof.
Yep.
Wow.
I'm like,
That's a nice roof line. I like that.
Yeah. We were talking about Torinos tonight.
Yeah.
With Terry. You missed a lot of good stuff.
I know. I tuned in while I was at the...
Oh, did you?
After the show.
Uh-huh.
I went on my phone.
Right.
And I got backstage, and there was like 8 people or so across the screen.
Yeah, there was a lot
There was
of
a whole
us.
bunch of people on there.
Right.
And I'm like, and
There
I was
was a
trying
bunch
to
of us.
listen, but it was so noisy there.
Yeah.
And then I saw Lewis when I went in the back. Lewis was like looking around, like he goes, "Oh, Chazzy John's here," you know. But then it was just so loud, I shut it down.
Yeah. Well, you can go. That's the beauty. You can go back and watch it now on YouTube.
Yeah. So
If
I
you
will,
watch
but
it, it'll post.
Yeah.
I wish
hit
I
the
was
right
here
button.
tonight. I had no choice.
Terry was saying if he's a Ford man, I told him there's still time.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so cool to see that Firebird that he worked on at Autorama.
Yeah.
Oh, that car was there?
Beautiful car.
Isn't that green paint unbelievable?
And it's one of those, like, I saw pictures from SEMA.
Doesn't
and
do it justice.
Nope, not even close.
I was stunned when I walked up on that car. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's the kind of paint job you don't want to take outside.
Yeah.
It's too clean. Car's put together really well. They did a great job. I liked it. I didn't find any faults with it at all. Nothing but good stuff I found.
They said that interior install was like very well done, fit,
beautiful,
perfect.
Interior.
Yeah, that's the only way I could even consider looking at something like that. It's got to be done perfect.
It was.
Otherwise, I'm not on board.
It's to the point where I wouldn't take it out much at all. I'd be afraid
Which is a
of shipping
shame.
it.
You know, then you think of it. It's
See,
a
that's
shame.
why I can't have a car like that.
I wouldn't want one like that either.
No.
Yeah.
It's too fun to drive them.
Fully plan on putting chips in this new paint job. You know, rocks bouncing off the tubs and stuff. And
yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. That's that Camaro that we took. I mean, that guy, he put 3,000 miles on it in like a month and a half.
Yeah. I even told my body guy when we started talking about the project, he was like, well, what are we looking at for paint? You know, what are you looking to do here? And I'm like, I need driver quality, but really nice.
Yeah.
Because also, you're not building a show car. I said, no. I said, I want something that when you look at it, you know somebody knew what they were doing when they painted it, because I don't want it to look anything like factory paint.
Yeah.
I said, but I don't want it to look like a Trailer Queen paint job either. He's like, I know exactly what you're looking for.
That's what happened with my car when they were building it. It was in the shop, and they were doing the body bushings and doing the frame. There were a couple of the frame mounts that had to be changed under the trunk. Those were only two that were bad under the trunk. But he calls me. He says, listen, the guy's welded in the braces today. I'm like, oh, good. He goes, how do you want him to finish them off? I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, we want him to grind the welds, prime it, paint it. Like, you know, and I said to Mike, I told you, I'm not rolling this car out somewhere and throwing mirrors under it. It's a street car. It's a driver. I said, if the welds are sloppy, yeah, let them dress them off. I said, and then you're going to do that bed liner thing under there anyway. So
that's what I'm doing. Both cars, bed liner.
I don't care if you can see even the shadow of the thing. Who gives a shit? It's a freaking brace. It's a big deal. Not a show car.
No. I plan on putting a lot of street miles on both cars, and I plan on spraying everything underneath in bed liner.
So of course, one of the first days I had the car out, you know, I mean, I didn't get it painted till like last year. So this is like a couple of years ago, 4 years ago. But still, one of the first days I had it out, I took a side street through Rockville Center down by what the hell was the name of that auto parts store? They sold all GM. They were a GM dealer. Damn. George Smith and Sons, I think was the name. Yeah, they were really big. Like that's where you went for the GM stuff, Delco stuff. And I take a shortcut down there to avoid something, and I run into this road crew that was cutting the road like with the concrete saw. So I roll through the puddle kind of slow, and it put this like these concrete stripes under the car that just dried. It's like, son of a bitch. I came home, I tried hosing it off. It wouldn't hose off. Like, fuck it. Okay, there you go. Perfect.
I know exactly what you're talking about with that.
Yep. Concrete dust.
Yeah.
It's finally, a lot of it wore away now, but funny. All right, boys, it's the bewitching hour. Brian's oven, I think, is warmed up by now. I think it's at about 350, ready to go.
You going to make yourself a nice sandwich or some chocolate fudge cake?
No. Start talking about it, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Come on. I saw the pictures of that sandwich you made. A nudge.
Nah.
That was
I
awesome.
think
His daughter busted him the next day too.
Did you get donuts to toast, Mr. Enterman?
No.
Yeah,
I had a busy day. I mean, it was crazy.
I had my rest in peace donuts today.
Yeah.
It was delicious.
barely-
I had what Wawa coffee did I get today? Oh, it was like a Cuban blend.
Oh,
Very strong. Really strong.
nice.
Yeah. And I had that nice bagel with cream cheese.
It looked good.
Yeah. They use Philly. And
Hey, does anybody know
and
the
those
guy who was
Entenmann's.
the guy who's in the chat? This guy, Michael Pointsky. Does anybody know him?
No.
I happened to read through some of the stuff he was writing. He said he was like a wheel alignment tech in the 70s.
Oh God,
And,
really?
Yeah, and he was talking about a lot of old stuff. He was, I didn't see it because I was on full screen, but I looked at it, and I kind of,
He's got a whole bunch of stuff here.
a ton of stuff, but he was commenting on everything, talking about gas prices in '75 and
I think maybe Tyler knows him. I've heard the name.
370 SS Chevelles. Yeah, Michael
Says his
Pointsky.
daughter's got an E350.
Yeah, just like
My
Brian.
wife had an E350.
That's a van.
No.
So I was wondering. Yeah, I was wondering if anybody knew who he was.
E350? Oh, Mercedes? Oh, maybe.
Yeah, Mercedes. My Barb had an E350.
Oh, I'm thinking of an E350 van or a
That's
truck.
what I was
Oh, Barb had an
Okay.
E350
4MATIC, right.
Benz.
Wait,
Yeah.
I thought 4MATIC was BMW's thing.
I don't know. Well,
Brian,
Barb,
what's that drive thing on? What does BMW call their all-wheel drive? Their smart all-wheel drive. I thought that was 4MATIC.
4MATIC, yeah.
Because that's what
No, not BMW. That's 4MATIC is Mercedes.
yeah.
So what's
Is that
BMW?
Mercedes? 4MATIC, no. BMW is
It's
the
something
BMW
like that.
had an X something. It was X Drive.
X-Drive. Right,
X-Drive.
X-Drive. Got it. I mean, so you see what happens, Justin? You get some old guys in the room and they got to really think about what that shit means, but like ask us like, what the gear ratio for a 70 Chevelle was, or like, what they called the, who made the points or whatever. We'll spit that shit right
Hey,
out.
you guys had comments up the wazoo today.
Like the vinyl interior in any of the old GMs, it's called Murakide. It's like, who the hell knows that, And it still smells
and
like
what was the name of the grain?
There were different grains.
I know there was a Madrid,
That's what the Firebirds got, Madrid.
and there was, I think, a Seville, and what was the other one?
I know, because even when I had to get the headliner for my car, and they came in different patterns. There was like a waffle pattern, a pinpoint pattern, and the 70s GM cars with the faux wood grain on the side. That stuff is Dynoc. So we know that stuff, but
Right.
like, geez, what does Mercedes call their drive? Who the hell knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
I probably know more
Stuff
about
that's
the old stuff than the new anyway.
Unimportant stuff.
Unimportant.
Right.
I could care less what Mercedes calls their, overdrive transmission. All I know is my wife's car has how many gears do they put in the new Mercedes Benzes? What is it? 8 gears or
8
something?
or 10.
8 or 10.
Yeah.
You watch the tack, and just below the tack is a little numerical deal. So you drive in, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, and you don't even feel it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's so
progressive shifting.
It's so smooth and progressive that right away, the first time I ever drove the car, and I'm like looking at the gauges and watching this, and you know what came to mind? Rupp Roadster mini bikes.
Oh,
had that centrifugal clutch.
Yeah.
That would change diameter with RPM.
Are they using CVT trannies in those cars? I would imagine,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah, so it's like just like a slipping cone.
Exactly.
Like the two cones are just kind of always just
Your wife, the way you could see, because like I said, if you switch over the shifter to manual, then you can go through and you can click through and see how many gears it will go through.
Right.
Well, yeah, because it's got paddles.
Yeah, it's got the paddles, so you can go up there and like I think
haven't been able to figure out how I can make the paddles work. Is there
You
a
gotta get
button
into that
somewhere?
mode.
well,
Yeah,
there's
the
usually
paddle
most of the German cars have a knob, but there's either a
She's got a
button or a knob. There's a knob, and you'll have like
She keeps the shocks on sport mode.
yeah,
She says the car switches lanes easier that way.
yeah, you'll have sport. You'll have something like sport or performance, but you'll have like 3 different pictures or whatever, and you just turn that knob, and then the paddle shift.
I'll tell you what, I'm always amazed driving that car because I'm literally, when we use the Benz to go out somewhere, we're driving on the same roads that I drive on every freaking day, okay? And the difference of how the Benz sits in the lane and drives, it's got this feeling of, I'm trying to think of the word. It's stable. You feel that the car is totally under control, that the suspension is controlling everything. It gives you a lot of confidence in the way
there's
the
a lot
car
going on.
handles.
There's a lot going on those cars. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, it's got those electric shocks and the whole 9 yards. So you're really confident in the car's handling at low speed and at high speed. And this exact same roads that I'm on, in the same exact lane with the 2500 Chevy, it's a completely different feel. The 4-wheel drive Chevy with the big tires, it moves around in the lane. That's one of the things that I don't like about my truck is they wander a little bit, you know? Even though it's not in 4-wheel drive, it's just the suspension. It's heavy-duty truck suspension. It moves around, you know? Completely different feel.
Yeah.
Plus, the truck is a big, giant, heavy thing. You know, you go to throw it around, it's going to lean a little bit here and there. The best is when we come off of I-4 and get on what they call the Selman connector. It's a toll highway. When it leaves I-4, it goes downhill, and then it goes into a banked left turn.
Nice.
And in the bends, I'll come off the ramp and I'll start in the far left inside lane and accelerate into that turn and just ease the wheel and let the car drift up to the top of the turn as I'm coming around. And I'll take that. It says 40 miles an hour, and I'll go through that in the bends at like 75 or 80.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know?
Yeah,
and I'm like, God, what would this be like in a Porsche or a Ferrari or something that's real, you know, or a higher end Benz that's really made to go fast around turns?
Right.
Try that with the GMC, and you're over the guardrail and in the gutter.
It'd be like NASCAR in 1953 with the guys going off over the guardrail.
Exactly. I imagine it being a scene from Speed Racer.
Yeah.
It was always that car that hit the guardrail, it flew in the air, and then went over, and then all of a sudden you see a flame. You know?
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a scene from Speed Racer.
Is your wife's all-wheel drive?
I don't know.
Probably. Right?
I honestly don't know. It's 2021 E300.
Yeah, I don't know enough about them, but
I don't know.
It was kind of funny
there's so much technology, and you got so much going on in there. I'll never forget when we had a guy that had a twin turbo. This was a 911, and it was the first year that the twin turbo all-wheel drive, and it had the Vista clutch, you know, drive line in it and so forth. And he had waxed all 4 tires. I mean, because he was had gone up to Summit Point racing, but he had waxed all 4 tires. They were evenly worn all the way across.
Yeah.
And but at the time we could only get two tires, and I told him, I said, we only have 2 tires. Leave the car here. Don't drive it. And he's like, well, I'm a professional driver. I can drive this thing. I'm not leaving my car here. And I'm like, dude, you do not want to drive. This thing will not handle the way you know, it's not going to. And because of the circumference difference between the rear tires and the front tires, threw all that stuff off. And that guy went down the road, and about 45 minutes later, here it comes on a tow truck, on a flatbed. He had spun that thing around and went through a fence.
Wow.
And he was dumbfounded. He sat there the whole time shaking his head. Luckily, he didn't really mess the car up. But I said, he goes, I cannot believe. And I said, nothing against you. I said, you may be a good driver, but this car made you a better driver.
Right.
Sure.
And, the everything was so out of whack, it didn't know how to compensate. And, of course, it would overcompensate one way. Of course, he's fighting it the other way, and it threw that car in. And it was funny because I inspected a lot of those cars, especially the air-cooled ones, any of the air-cooled. And it was always funny when they would bring the car to me, and they'd say, I want to know if this car was ever in an accident or whatever. I always walked to the back of the car and started looking. They're like, well, what are you looking back there for? And I said, with all the weight in the back of this, because the motor's in the back, I said, when they lose them, they spin around, and whatever was in front of them, they hit with the back of the car.
Yeah.
So usually the front of the car was okay. It didn't have any real damage. Of course, they're always looking at the front like they're going to run into something.
Yeah,
whatever they ran in with the back of it,
The difference is the one I sent you pictures of last summer we got in the shop where the guy did douche the front.
Yeah, well, he ran into that pole.
Yeah. Oops.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
I was going to say tonight, while I was watching Adam 12 at 5 o'clock on, I guess, Turner Classic Movies, 97, Grand Prix was on from 66 with James Garner and all. I tell you, that was, talking about an iconic movie for the way they filmed it with those cigar cars.
You know what I watched the other night? It was Mannix.
Oh, Mannix, yeah.
God,
And
really?
it was the first. It was like the first season, like in '67. And man, I tell you, the cars in that were beautiful, dude.
I don't remember what season it was, but he had a Dart that was built by Barris. They built him this custom
That was
Dart.
later on. That was like 70, I think.
Yeah, I think it was later on, right? And it was a cool Dart. I mean, just had those that's Barris made those wild, crazy customs. But he did TV cars right because just changed enough things and did enough little tweaks to make it look different yet not outrageous. And
the Mannix was, I think it was 67. This is when he worked for the agency before he had his own agency,
Right.
So it was a little bit different.
He always drove some kind of cool car though.
Yeah, but I tell you, man, I was watching, I was like, it was like 3 a.m. or something when it was on. I was like, I got to stay up and watch because he's always got some badass cars on that thing.
Yeah, Mannix is on overnight. Yeah,
That's when I hit the DVR.
Yeah.
My problem is everything. If I tape it, I'll never get back to it. And then of course I hear this: the DVR is full. What can it go? I don't know what's on there. Everything's already gone. So it's
Unreal.
Oh well.
All right, fellas.
I freak everybody out because I walk upstairs with my VHS player and a couple tapes, and they say, "What are you going to do with that?" I said, "I'm going to hook this to the TV so I can tape something, so it won't get erased." And they all look at me like, "What the hell?"
We can,
Oh God, there you
There you go.
we can start now.
I know. I got some over around the corner here.
I got a ton of them still. Well, I got a lot of moves
Yeah.
I still have to transfer over. So,
Yep. I
Yeah.
have
I hope it's
boxes,
still good.
crates
'Cause
of them.
yeah,
Tons.
got to do that
I've
too.
tried to play some, and they don't. If they weren't protected, or if they've been high moisture, or
Yeah,
they kind of fall apart.
You got to clean the machine too. You got to clean the heads, and
Yeah.
because they get kind of crappy. I just bought something from Sharper Image. It's a little cassette player because I still got some of the original Motor Mouth radio. Because when we taped them on cassette. So it's a cassette player. You put the tape in.
And it's USB.
Yep, it takes you put a thumb drive right in the USB port for the thumb drive, and they even give you the freaking thumb drive. They sold it with the thing, so you can do cassette right to digital.
Wow,
that's
without
awesome.
doing any.
That is cool.
Without using a computer interface. So yeah, I picked that up. I'm gonna see if I ever get around to doing that.
I don't have any cassettes at all. All that stuff's gone.
I still got my cassettes in the garage. I got the player set up, and I
still have some 8 tracks.
I got a box 8 tracks over here.
I don't have any of that. I have CDs, DVDs. I do have VHS tapes that I still have to go through to determine if they're junk or something I want to transfer out, and then that would give me a bunch of shelf space.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah.
Rick James.
Oh wow!
talk about a wild. I mean,
hey,
pretty big.
I'll use that for show music. You kidding me? I'll use that for my intro music.
And those are 8 tracks.
No, these are cassettes.
Oh, they're cassettes.
They're cassettes. The 8 tracks are over on the other side.
Oh my god!
It was funny.
Yeah, I don't have any cassettes.
I bought the disco box set here. I even had to buy a Saturday Night Switzer CD because I didn't have it. So what disco? I think we may use Smash Mouth this week. I got to go through it and find a couple good songs.
You know that disco there was on Long Island. They recreated that place 2001 with the floor that lights up in Bayshore.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Right after the movie came out, I'm almost positive I was told that the dance floor was the floor from the movie.
Oh wow!
Oh
which
yeah,
were
I think
white,
I read something about
white acrylic panels.
Yeah.
With the lights underneath. It was a raised stage. A raised
you remember
dancing platform.
where the club was?
It was off of Montauk Highway in Bayshore. I don't remember the address though.
The Boardy
but it was
Barn
called
is down there.
It was called 2001 Odyssey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah.
We went.
And it was a recreation of the movie set from Brooklyn.
Right.
Right.
And it was out on Long Island, and we used to go there all the time.
Wow.
Yeah. That was pretty wild.
Cool.
Those were the days.
Yep.
All right, kids, I gotta get ready. I got credit cards to get ready.
All right.
And I got.
I ran mine hours ago.
Yeah, well, I can't run mine until Friday when people get paid.
It's Friday.
Yeah, well, the magical moment's at 3 a.m. So.
All right, so.
Oh well.
For Lewis Lee, Ray Guarino, Chassis John, Matt Command, Brian, and Justin Airbets. John, what do we always say? Take us out of here.
Don't follow us home if you know what's good for you.
Or you get billed, or you get a credit card bill you didn't know where it came from.
Exactly.
Because we have your number, we can
Or you
find
get
it.
whacked in the head with a crowbar.
All right.
Yep.
Justin,
All
good to
right,
see you
boys.
again. Good.
You too, guys.
Great work over here, and continue your fantastic work.
Thank
Keep
you.
us
Will do.
posted on all the comings and goings and all.
And have yourself an Entenmann's Rich Frosted Donut in
Get ready for
memory
the
of the
snow.
old man.
Yes.
Nah,
Supposed
no
to get
snow. Get
snow.
ready.
All
We've
the
had
snow.
rain and sun here. Rain and sun.
Right.
It's been a roller
Gator
coaster
Nationals
weather.
this weekend. Gator Nationals in Gainesville.
All right. All right, boys. You can catch me on Sunday, and I'll see you guys here next week, and we'll talk during the week.
All right, guys. Be safe.
And broadcast. Boink. Okay. It'll spool up. 3 hours, 20 minutes tonight. Yee-hoo.
We're pushing it, boys. We gotta go for that 4.
Oh,
go for that
please,
4 hours.
Well, we're gonna
We'll have a slumber party.
We're gonna have a special after hours chat with pieces from everything that goes on. We're gonna create a whole nother program.
I know.
We're gonna steal stuff from this show and then add new stuff.
It's telling me it's having trouble connecting. Please check your internet connection. What?
Oh boy.
It says we're still alive.
Yes, it's showing right
Click
here.
out.
If I got
Oh,
news
yeah,
for you. If I
it
didn't have
says
an internet
live.
connection, you wouldn't be seeing me. I think the problem's on their end.
Yep. Russian hacking.
Right.
We were hacked last week. What a
Really?
clusterfuck, dude. Yeah.
Really?
Snap-on was down for like 2 days.
Wow.
They got in there. They were down. Our IT guys caught ours. And, man, we were going through all these password changes and VPN stuff. Oh, it's been a clusterfuck, dude.
Don't you hate
Just a
that?
mess.
So we'll see what happens.
All right.
It's still ticking off.
You know what? It's not. I'm just gonna have to end it cold, and it's gonna do what it does.
Oh, Lord.
See ya.
All right. See ya.
Down and dirty.
Yep, that's it.
I'll see you
All
guys.
right, guys. Take it easy.
You too.